Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, if you are a timeshare owner, you're probably upset that your yearly dues continue to increase. Lone Star Transfer guarantees the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and done in a specific time frame. They're the only company you can trust, having helped more than 18,000 owners legally and permanently get out. So please call Lone Star Transfer 855-551-7066 or visit LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Monday, I hope you had a good Easter and Passover. President Biden spent the time at Camp David in Maryland, and now tomorrow he's off to Ireland, beating me by a couple of months. I'll be going there in June. Beautiful place. Anyway, Mr. Biden is going over there to celebrate 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement, which ended the so-called Troubles in Northern Ireland between the Catholics and the Protestants. Well, this is an okay trip, but it's not necessary, certainly. And we have plenty of troubles here in the USA, do we not? And those problems are being neglected, some say ignored, by President Biden. The most vivid example to all of us is the southern border, which has been completely out of control for 2 years. Millions of people are in America now that should not be here. And hundreds of thousands of others are suffering grievously. Those are the migrants themselves, subjected to violence, extortion, and every other crime you can think of in the Mexican side of the border. So I don't mind Joe Biden going to Ireland. He has Irish roots, and I hope he has a good time. But this man is simply not, in my opinion, doing the job that we hired him to do through our votes. The USA is a mess. Back after this. Hey, DirecTV viewers, Bill O'Reilly here, inviting you to watch the No Spin News on the First TV every night, 8 p.m. Eastern. The 2024 election coming up fast. Pundits parade from channel to channel, pushing nothing but speculation and their own partisan agenda. All that stops now with me, Bill O'Reilly, on the First TV. So please join me every night, 8 p.m. for the No Spin News on the First TV, DirecTV channel 347. Stand up for your country. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your first alert forecast. Mostly clear skies overnight will drop to 45 degrees. Mostly sunny on Monday with an afternoon high of 72. Partly cloudy Monday night as we drop to 51. And for Tuesday, sunny and even warmer with an afternoon high of 77 degrees. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What can we do to drain the swamp?
Live and local.
At some point, do we just let the dumb ones weed themselves out? Our modern society has been keeping dumb people alive for a long time.
This is News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of your Monday morning. I'm Mike Ferguson. A couple of follow-ups we're going to do today, and obviously all the news stuff that we're going to talk about throughout the morning. But on Friday's program, we had just gotten the news that the Biden administration has examined it, they've reviewed it, and they have decided that the entire debacle that was the Afghanistan withdrawal, that disastrous set of decisions that resulted in the loss of 13 American lives, including Jared Schmidt, that was not their fault. They decided they were going to blame Donald Trump for that because that's just how things roll with the Biden administration. Absolutely shirking any of the commander-in-chief's duties on that. And we had a conversation with former Marine and also freedom fighter Paul Kurtman, who, of course, as you know, hosts a Saturday show right here on News Talk STL, former state representative as well, and got his take on that, not just from a public policy perspective, but from a Marine's perspective. And Here's how Paul assesses the entire declaration by the Biden administration that none of it was their fault.
Hey, Paul, I want to start with the question over Afghanistan. You probably saw the back and forth between Peter Doocy and John Kirby, but the State Department and the Pentagon decided to put out a report, or they haven't put out. They said that there is a document that they've announced is now written that essentially says the entire Afghanistan withdrawal debacle is Donald Trump's fault. And here's John Kirby as part of the overall exchange and as part of his answering questions at the presser at the White House yesterday, making his case that this was all Donald Trump's fault, not the commander-in-chief at the time.
You got to look at when he came into office, what he was walking into. He didn't negotiate with the Taliban. He didn't invite the Taliban to Camp David. He didn't release 5,000 prisoners. He didn't reduce force levels in Afghanistan to 2,500. And he didn't have an arrangement with the Taliban that they won't attack our troops. He came in with a certain set of circumstances.
Shirking responsibility, Paul, or fair criticism?
Yeah, absolutely. That's shirking responsibility. Good morning, guys. And this is, man, I was just talking about this whole issue all day long yesterday, pretty much with everybody that I ran into who just wanted to talk about that press conference and these reports that are coming out. Biden can say, his whole administration can say, hey, I wasn't the one that did this, and this. No. You were the one who was actually the commander-in-chief during the withdrawal. And first off, President Biden blew right through Donald Trump's timeline. There was a timeline. Donald Trump blew through it. And I think it's incredibly hypocritical, and it is just straight up gaslighting to say, hey, look, Donald Trump didn't negotiate with the Taliban. Well, President Biden didn't negotiate with the Taliban, but it was President Biden who chose the Taliban and asked the Taliban to provide our security during the whole withdrawal. And it was under President Biden's watch that they got all these guns and all this ammunition. It was under President Biden's watch. It was under his command that we turned over Kandahar Airport. President Trump's plan was for that to stay basically the territory or under the administration or overwatch of the United States. But because of President Biden, China has it now. And so this is absolutely a failure of the Biden administration. And you know what? You're the commander in chief. And right now, every real warrior in the United States military is rolling their eyes and gritting their teeth, because that same excuse doesn't fly whenever there's a change of command ceremony. You don't have somebody coming in to lead a battalion of Marines and say, well, you know, I know I've been in command here for 8 months, but really the reason that these field operations are going bad is because of the guy who was here a year and a half ago. That would never happen, because in a situation like this, if you're the commander in chief, if you're the commander, if you're a platoon leader, you're still in charge at the moment of the operation. And so if your gut's telling you, hey, this probably isn't the best idea, well, then it's your responsibility to wait. And if you need to speed up the timeline, speed up the timeline. If you need to stop and say, hey, hold on a second, we're going to wait. We're going to wait another 3, 4, 6 months to make sure we get this done right, because we don't think that the guy who was here before had worked this out and worked all the kinks out and worked everything out to make sure that we could pull off a safe operation. So if you're in charge, it is your responsibility, and you have the authority to do whatever you want. And so I'm incredibly angry and frustrated, because you got soldiers. It used to be, guys, that when a U.S. soldier died in combat or in theater, that the commander really took responsibility for that. And it bothered them. And they were the ones that wrote the letter. They would take the responsibility to actually write the letter home to the parents. And knowing that they were going to be the ones to do that, it made them much more thoughtful about the decisions they made on the battlefield. Not President Biden. President Biden, it's always everybody else's fault. Oh, some soldiers died? Oh, and, hey, look, Mom and Dad, I'm real sorry to tell you that your son's dead, but it was the previous commander's fault that was here a year ago. That's who was really responsible for this. Guys, I don't have enough words to tell you how angry. I'm not just disappointed, and this isn't a left-right thing. I'm just angry when somebody shirks their responsibility in the worst possible way that results in the worst possible outcome, culminating in the death of some of America's best and brightest.
Good morning, Paul. Gabe here. Between that and a lot of other news coming out of kind of the international community, it seems as though we've lost a lot of clout since the Trump administration. I mean, the confidence in the U.S. dollar is pretty much in the toilet. So, I mean, you've got expertise in the military aspect of it, which we just talked about, and now also in the financial. And I just wanted to get your take on the growing dissatisfaction with the use of the U.S. dollar as an international currency.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right about that, Gabe. So under Biden's administration, we've become a laughing stock as far as our military might is concerned. But then when the U.S. dollar is concerned, right now, global trade, when you look at global trade of oil, for example, it's all tied to the U.S. dollar. Like whenever they trade oil, they trade it on the U.S. dollar. These days, it's possible. These days are going to be behind us in the not too distant future, especially if President Biden or the Democrats manage to stay in power for another 4 years. You have India right now saying that they're going to do all their trade on the rupee. They want to get off the U.S. dollar. They want to bring it home. And you're going to have other countries that start doing the same thing. There are some economists out there that say, oh, this could never happen. This won't ever happen. It absolutely could happen. It could absolutely happen. China and Russia now for probably about 2 decades have been discussing creating their own currency and using that for their trade. And what's really frightening is about 15 years ago, they put out the word, hey, we're probably going to create another currency backed by gold, and we're going to start trading on that. And if they did that, it would become probably extremely popular because the value of that probably wouldn't quite be at the whims of an inflationary monetary policy or some central bankers. That could be very attractive to some people. But here's the nightmare scenario that I don't think is going to play out anytime soon, but you just never know the way things are going with the Biden administration. If all this trade decides to unpeg from the U.S. dollar, all these U.S. dollars are going to have some place to go. And where do you think they're going to go but back home? And what does that do to the U.S. economy? So President Biden is playing with fire here, and it's just a nightmare scenario when President Biden is the one in charge of the U.S. economy, essentially, and the U.S. military, and both of those are quickly fading in terms of their relevance on the world stage.
Good morning, Paul. This is Estelle. To sort of piggyback on that, because you do wear multiple caps, political and financial. Gold is over $2,000 an ounce. Oil's at over $85 a barrel. I look at other countries like Venezuela and Argentina that have gone through so many financial and political disasters over the last couple of decades. Are you really concerned about where the economy is going?
So it would in light of what I just said, Stell, about a potential nightmare scenario, I don't think it's going to happen. Now, I could be wrong. I've been wrong about things before. And one of the reasons I say it's probably not going to happen is because in the United States, as much as we've seen bailouts and as much as we've seen the government intervention in our economy, we still have an incredibly strong market economy. And so even when bad news comes out from the federal government that has caused the market to drop a few points, even in a single day, usually what we see everything from institutional investors to retail investors. So that's the people that buy on behalf of large financial companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, Capital Group, those institutional companies, but also retail investors like mom and dad who are sitting down at their computer just managing their IRA. We have seen them rush into the market and pull it back up 3 or 4 points in a single day in the same week that we've had such bad news like 9% rate of inflation, 40-year high rates of inflation. So I don't think it's going to happen only because right now the market economy is still manages to be stronger than government headlines, if that's a good way that I can put it. So I feel really good because we have such a strong market economy in the U.S. It doesn't always seem like that, especially when you're so freedom-minded like we are, and then you see the government get involved. But relatively speaking, on the world stage, this market in the U.S. is still a pretty strong market where the people are in charge.
All right, we're a little heavy here, Paul, but real quick, I wanted to ask you about this. We don't need to rehash all the criminal charges against Donald Trump. I think that's been done pretty much ad nauseum through the week. But this is going to dominate the headlines. What about the effect on the other candidates or on the GOP race for the nomination in general? What kind of effect could this have on this? I mean, other than maybe chaos.
Well, I tell you what, I think it's going to pull all the candidates in the race closer to being Donald Trump-like, because first off, they all know that this DA in Manhattan is just a bad guy. He's just corrupt. And they also know that the majority of Americans who can see the corruption, or maybe were part of the MAGA movement or are Republicans in general, they know that they can see it too. And so I think we're going to see candidates getting closer to Donald Trump. They're going to be defending him in this whole situation. And I tell you, it's going to be interesting to watch, because very rarely do you see a whole bunch of candidates coming to the aid of their own opposition. But on this issue, I think that's what we're going to see. I think that's what we're going to see from Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, and all these other people that are jumping in the race. Even Nikki Haley, I think they're going to have to come out and defend Donald Trump on this issue.
Got your first News Talk STL morning news roundup of the week coming your way here in just about 3 minutes and 56 seconds on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Larry Connors, USA.
Well, source matters a lot. That would mean the director of National Intel is either lying himself or he's not that intelligent.
Larry Connors.
Or both.
Weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL.
You wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Considering an online pharmacy? Explore BeSafeRx to find useful information and resources to help you purchase medicines safely online. A safe online pharmacy requires a doctor's prescription, has an address in the United States, has a licensed pharmacist, and is licensed by a state pharmacy board. It's best to stay away from online pharmacies that don't meet these criteria. Discover more helpful tips and resources at BeSafeRx. Go to fda.gov/BeSafeRx.
This news update brought to you by Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. Call Anton's at 314-338-3941 or visit them at antonshvac.com. We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Are we getting more hints about the 2024 race for president? Man, some Republicans are racking up the frequent flyer miles right now. And they're not in the race yet officially. But man, they're racking up the miles. A lot of miles. All right, speaking of racking up the miles, some people are going to rack up fewer miles on the Metro. It is cutting back a key service. I'm going to explain why here in a couple of minutes. And Jordan Walker, man, he is off to a hot start this season. Rest of the Cardinals, not so much. All right, it is 5:50. I'm Mike Ferguson. That is Stel Ponticus. Good morning. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of your day. Let me follow up on that conversation that you just heard with Paul Kurtman that we had on Friday's show. Regarding that report that was issued in the past week, the Biden administration, of course, wanting to put the blame on Donald Trump for the debacle of withdrawal from the Afghanistan conflict, resulting obviously in the death of 13 service members, including Jared Schmitz from the St. Louis area. Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher, he is from Wisconsin, was on with Sean Duffy on Fox News' Sunday Morning Futures to talk about that and respond to the Biden administration's claims.
It was the definition of chaos. It was dishonorable. It was shameful. It was humiliating. And Kirby, as a military officer, should know better. We're talking about 13 Americans dead who didn't need to die, Sean. Hundreds of Americans that we abandoned behind enemy lines. And for them to minimize this, for them to try and just dump this report on a Thursday night, hoping nobody would notice. And then if you read the contents of the report, it's quite literally insane, Sean, trying to gaslight the American people.
Yeah, I think using words like shameful is not too much. I think that is absolutely appropriate. And gaslighting is just kind of the tactic and the modus operandi of the Biden administration at this point. So I'm glad that they're swinging back hard at this, because usually when you talk about something that goes wrong in military, because you win military conflicts by doing two things, and I'm going to kind of give an homage to Rush Limbaugh on this. You win military conflicts by killing people and blowing up stuff. That's how you win military conflicts in the end. And so we always want to be very, very slow to politicize something like this, but that's what the Biden administration has done because of their failures and because they simply will not step in and said, we were wrong, we weren't ready, we made mistakes, but instead it's everybody else's fault but ours.
2.5 years of shifting the blame,
Yeah.
from my perspective. That's all they seem to do.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. So, I saw a report that, Jared Schmitz's, father, who's been on this program and on this station, he was reported he's just livid with that report. And, I don't know if he's a Republican or Democrat. I have no idea, but that's not the point.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, on this particular issue. And that's what we're going to see more and more and more of, especially as we head into 2024. It's like, politicians, the Republicans are kind of guilty of this too, but it just seems that politicians assume that they cannot ever say we made a mistake or we didn't factor in all the variables or that we are learning as we're going. It's as though we have to be perfect in every single thing. And if we got something wrong, well, then it was because of some circumstance beyond our control. I think they would be surprised at how well people would react if they say, you know what, we didn't know some stuff then, but we know it now, or we made a bad call. And those are the risks you take when you're involved in a military conflict in this kind of case. I for some reason, they don't think that anybody will ever be forgiven for a mistake when every one of us makes mistakes every day in our lives. But the Biden administration doesn't want to level with people like that.
No, they don't seem to understand that honesty can win out. Yeah, you can be honest with us. Citizens will say, okay, fine, we understand you made a mistake. We'll move on.
Yeah. And if it's bad enough, you'll bear the consequences for it, but we'll respect you more.
Yeah.
And this is in media and in politics, it's just one of the cancers of our culture right now. Okay, let's talk presidential politics a little bit here. All right, he's been to Iowa already. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis makes a stop in New Hampshire. DeSantis headlined the state's annual GOP dinner on Friday, and he's speaking in Ohio this week and South Carolina next week. So in other words, Stell, he's making appearances in the key early states, and U.S. Senator from South Carolina Tim Scott is scheduled to appear in both Iowa and New Hampshire this week as well.
Seems like they're checking off all the state boxes.
Yeah, they really are. I think this is going to get really, really interesting over the next probably 2 to 3 months. I think that when you have these high-profile office holders who are traveling around the country and these key areas that we all know what the pattern is, they don't need to announce a formal campaign if we all know what they're doing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I mean, with DeSantis and Tim Scott, they both have books to sell. I mean, so that's a legit reason to get out and start speaking of stuff. If I wrote a book, I would go speak to. My wife's book was released back this past May, and she is about to leave on Wednesday for another week and a half of stuff related to book speaking tours. So, and she's not running for president, just so everybody knows.
Well, not that you know of.
Oh, gosh, I hope not. Oh, my goodness. Her travel schedule's enough as it is. All right. How about this? Speaking of the presidential race, now with less than 2 years until Election Day, a lot of candidates ramping up their campaigns. Vivek Ramaswamy was on Fox News Live over the weekend to comment on his plan.
I think that Donald Trump did this country a great service by exposing a lot of the problems and the administrative rot of the corrupt federal government. But we're only going to go so far with vengeance and with grievance. And what I'm doing is I'm going to take that agenda further than Trump ever did by doing it based on a moral foundation.
All right, interesting take. He's, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he means by that, but I think it's an interesting take. And I still haven't received his book, by the way.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I got the thing from Amazon that says, okay, it's been long enough. You can just get a full refund. Click here. And I'm like, nah, I'll wait for the book.
Oh, gosh.
It has not arrived yet. Okay, it's in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to go into more depth on this. Okay, here in the area, the Metro's caller ride service scaled back as of today. This is really making a lot of people mad. Metro officials say they're short about 80 drivers, so they're going back to the actual service area of 3/4 of a mile from bus and Metrolink routes. If you live farther than that, they're actually not obligated to pick you up and give you a ride. They have been providing that service beyond those areas for years. Some activists have now filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice, which I think is meritless, but they've done that anyway, so look for a conflict on that. All right, fair to say the Cardinals are off to a slow start for the season. That's fair to say. After losing to the Brewers on Sunday, Redbirds are now 3-6. One bright spot is that Jordan Walker has gotten a hit in all 9 games to start his career. He's 20 years old. That ties a Cardinals rookie record. St. Louis on the road tonight, playing the Rockies at 7:40.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Democrats do what they do.
We choose truth over facts. News, analysis, and opinion.
Former President Donald Trump entered court.
We can see and hear a small group of protesters.
This is a sham. What's going on here?
It's been a long time coming. Watch Trump get booked.
Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 34 counts.
You don't go after a target like this.
Alvin Bragg is on solid ground.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. Excited to tell you about one of our newest clients. I've been a customer of them for years, Professional Irrigation Systems. If you're tired of dragging hoses around your yard to keep your grass alive every summer, now's the time to make your life easier. Residential irrigation installs in one day, custom designed for your property. They will enhance your curb appeal. They've also got landscape lightings, makes the architecture of your home stand out, making all your neighbors envious. Fertilization packages as well for all your lawn care needs and great financing options. ProIrrigation.com, 636-692-4441. ProIrrigation.com.
Hi, I'm Ben Affleck. The only thing better than playing a hero in the movies is being a hero in real life. Like the 50,000 veterans who returned from Iraq and Afghanistan with devastating injuries. They are true heroes, and they're why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America. For more than 60 years, Paralyzed Veterans of America has made a promise to never leave a fallen comrade behind. They make sure veterans with spinal cord injuries get the quality medical care, rehabilitation, and housing they need when they come home. They stay with our fallen heroes for the long term, offering counseling, job training, and support to help them regain the freedom and independence they fought so hard for, all at no cost to them. Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them. To learn more about how you can help, visit pva.org. That's pva.org. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. There are bipartisan calls for the United States to stand by Taiwan as communist China holds massive military drills in the sea and the sky just off the island's coast. Texas Republican Congressman Michael McCall, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
This is an intimidation tactic that they're known for. The size of this one is quite large, one of the largest ones we've seen. But it's not going to intimidate us.
McCall, part of a congressional delegation that's visiting Taiwan. He was on NBC's Meet the Press. China's military harassment of the self-governing island has gone on for years, but has intensified in the past couple of years. And China will be getting an economic shot in the arm courtesy of Tesla, the electric vehicle maker planning to build a factory in Shanghai where it will make power storage devices for sale worldwide.
Plans call for an annual production of 10,000 megapack units. The Xinhua news agency says the company made the announcement at a signing ceremony in Shanghai Sunday, where Tesla operates an auto factory. The factory is due to break ground in the third quarter of this year and start productions in the second quarter of 2024. Tesla didn't immediately respond to requests for information. Rhonda Rockster reporting.
Nashville's Metro Council may vote today to reinstate one of the two Democrat state lawmakers expelled by their Republican colleagues for their role in a pro-gun control riot at the state capitol. First, the Pentagon, now the Department of Justice, launching an investigation of the posting online of sensitive documents, some of them classified as top secret. And Spaniard John Rahm gets the coveted green jacket at the Masters in Augusta. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures are up 29 points, NASDAQ futures down 16. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt, I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you called Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me, and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Commercials. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
Hey, will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL. Get up! This is your cousin.
Okay, everybody, relax.
Okay.
All right. Two local left-wing governments finally accept that COVID is over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just now getting around to that.
They just got the memo, I guess.
Yeah, they just issued the memo, actually.
Spring of 2023.
Yeah, so now it's official.
All right.
Well, I mean, President Biden says it'll be actually over in May.
May 11th on my anniversary.
That's right. That's going to be easy for you to remember that.
Yes. Yep.
I'm going to look for a card, not for your anniversary, but Happy COVID's Over Day. Does Hallmark make those?
They should.
They may.
That's right.
If they're proper capitalists, they should.
Jeez. All right, 6:06 right now. I'm Mike. That's Gabe, and that's Stell here. Okay, so in case you missed it, and this is one of those that was a joint statement from the city and the county of St. Louis. So Tashard Jones' office, Sam Page's office, they jointly released a statement. This is really weird. Right around 9 o'clock on Friday, so just as this show was ending, they put out a statement saying that the official COVID emergency declarations have been lifted and that they're over. Now, the two governments, the two left-wing governments, and the ideologically captured medical establishment were the only ones left who had not moved on with our lives, and the only ones who apparently did not recognize that COVID has been over for years. But they finally put it out that they've released those, they've ended those emergency declarations. That had to be hard for them. I'm sure they hated to do that.
I'm sure, yeah. Oh, my gosh. It's kind of wild how we've gotten this far deep into this whole thing, and people are still hanging on.
I'm not going to name where I was because I was at Rachel's church and for Easter, and I still see some dummies walking around in masks.
Yeah,
I saw one couple had their little kid masked.
Oh man, yeah. See, that's really rough for me because we know that it's only detrimental. There's no positive to masking children.
And I know I'm not supposed to. It's in church and everything, but I'm judging you.
Well, no,
I am.
You are supposed to judge.
Okay.
You're just supposed to judge rightly.
Okay.
That's what that scripture actually says.
I judge that they look like, if you are wearing a mask now at this point, you look like an idiot.
I would say that's a right judgment.
Okay, that's good. I'm covered at that point. So, but yeah, it's just amazing me to look around and just like, are you out of your mind? Are you kidding me? But Sam Page and Tashard Jones finally doing the paperwork to say, okay, now it's over. And they listed off a bunch of things like COVID rates and hospitals and vaccine rates and all of this sort of stuff.
They're actually still tracking that garbage?
Now they're dissolving some of the things that we're doing, but apparently they were still doing all of that. And people just stopped. Well, I would say I think a lot of people, the farther left you are, the more you are addicted to that fear-mongering drug.
Yeah.
And so now they're officially saying, okay, it's over. So I'll call back some of those eye doctors now for those follow-ups that I canceled and just say, all right, what are you doing now? Hey, St. Luke's, what are you doing? Hey, Mercy, what are you doing?
The emergency is over officially.
Right.
Like by government decree, since you're all about the government decrees, right?
Yeah, you've got nothing left to stand on. So what are your rules inside your tax subsidized buildings that are still technically private property, but
Definitely say it that way too.
Oh, I absolutely. Believe me, they don't miss me. Which I know is a shock to everybody who listens to the show, but they don't miss me at all. I know. Yeah, but that's where we're at. So government's finally met. Now remember St. Charles, there was some initial reaction, and then the St. Charles County area just basically said, no, this is stupid. We're not doing this.
Yeah. I think a lot of the common sense places around the country did the same thing. They had that initial, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then they realized, like, wait a minute, this is dumb.
Right. And only the far fringe left are the people who were like, no, follow the science. Well, here's what the science says. No, that's not what it says. Well, that's what it says. But don't follow that. Follow the guy we like because he's aligned with us politically.
Right.
And J.B. Pritzker. I mean, I also got one of those Facebook memories things. Do you ever look at those?
Oh, yeah.
I look at those almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And back in, I guess it would have been 2000, I was questioning on Facebook where Governor Parson had the authority to issue a stay-at-home lockdown order. Because remember, he did.
Right.
Now, he lifted it very quickly.
Yes.
But that's why, and I personally get along just fine with Governor Parson. I've known him since he was a state senator.
Sure.
But he was wrong.
Right.
To do that.
Correct.
And so I was questioning it then, and it created quite a debate on my personal Facebook page. So I was looking through that a little bit, saying, where does he get that authority? The reality is he doesn't have any moral authority to do it, nor did J.B. Pritzker have any moral authority. Now, Governor Parson lifted that very quickly, but we still need to remember that even Republicans and even conservatives fell victim to the fear-mongering that was issued.
Yeah, that speaks to the strength of fear-mongering as a political tactic. And we need to be very much on guard for those things. Whenever they say this is a crisis or that's a crisis, or you have to do something, or government should do something, there ought to be a law, all of those are fear-based pushes to do something immediately without fully thinking it through, without fully understanding the situation, the limits of your authority as a government official, or all of it, and the rights of the people.
Yeah, and one of the things we should be on guard for even more, I think, is, we don't know, so let's do something.
Right. That's worse.
No,
that's the worst thing you could do.
We don't know, hold your position.
Right.
When you know, then do something.
Yeah.
And we've now got 3 years of looking back and saying we didn't know crap.
Guess what, guys? Ready, fire, aim is not the proper sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're hunters out there, if you cannot identify the thing that you see moving in the brush, you are not to fire. That's standard operating procedure. If you cannot identify friend or foe on the battlefield, you hold fire until you know. If you can't tell whether you're a civilian or a military target, you hold fire until you know. These are just basic concepts that exist, especially in the areas where we're talking about life and death situations. Well, we ought to consider the use of government force to do anything life and death situations.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's where it leads.
That did have an effect on it.
Yeah. I mean, the government operates at the end of a gun, first of all. So all laws kind of end with police authority, essentially. But even beyond that, we're talking about if you look at the health effects, if you look at the things that changed it, how government intrusion affected society and individuals, the government killed people during this whole thing.
Yeah, and if anybody thinks that that's hyperbolic, it's not, because you remember when they were throwing a fit over, look at the number of deaths that came in, they weren't necessarily looking at who died of COVID, which there were people who died of COVID. I'm not saying they're not, but remember, dialysis clinics were shut down.
Yeah.
Remember that other regular doctors' visits, if they were not considered emergency, were shut down.
So early cancer screenings were not happening.
Exactly. Blood transfusions. My doctors, a cardiologist, had to kick, fight, and scratch to get me in for a heart procedure to set my heart back in the right rhythm.
Right.
Because they had shut everything down and it wasn't officially by bureaucratic decree considered emergency.
And if you had a cardiac emergency and you died, that would simply go on to the quote-unquote excess deaths number that they would point to say, this is why we did the lockdowns. It would become a circular argument, and that's what happened.
Exactly. All right, we got a couple minutes for the information segment here. The Democrats in the Missouri legislature are about to lose another lawmaker, because Rashid Aldridge was elected to the St. Louis Board of Aldermen in the elections earlier this month on the 4th. And so he's leaving the state legislative job. He's got to resign there to take his Board of Aldermen job, which pays twice as much as what the state legislature pays. And so now they're going to be without St. Louis. A big part of St. Louis, including a lot of downtown St. Louis, is going to be without a state representative. So it's entirely up to Governor Parson, the way that the Missouri Constitution works, to decide if and when to call a special election for that seat, which he's not done so far. Now, according to the calendar, I guess it's possible he could call an election, but what's his April, May? No, he cannot call one by the end of the legislative session. So it is impossible for when he is sworn in as an alderman. It's impossible to fill that seat by the end of this legislative session just because it ends in May.
Right. It's just a timing issue.
Right. It's a timing issue. But he could call one, I guess, later on this year. He could certainly call one early next year. Or he could just simply say, it's vacant until 2024, and we don't know what the governor is going to do on that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of an interesting little situation he's got there, isn't it? I mean, according to the law, that seat can only be filled by special election, right?
Correct.
There's no appointment for interim or anything like that.
Not in Missouri. There's not.
Okay.
No. And so what would happen is the Republican Central Committee and the Democratic Central Committee of that district would appoint candidates. And then then there would be an election if and when the governor were to call an election. Now, whoever's elected that seat's going to be a liberal Democrat. We know that's going to happen.
Of course.
But having said that, I think the right thing to do is for the governor to call a special election at the first time it's feasibly possible.
Yes.
Just for the simple reason is that the people in that area deserve to have a representative in government, even though it's going to be somebody I disagree with probably 95% of the time. Now whether or not he's going to do it in August or, maybe early February or something like that remains to be seen. I guess he could call it and set it at a different time. But, I think that he should call a special election, even though we know it's going to be a left-winger who gets elected out there. I'm sure there'll be somebody who wants to run for that seat. I mean, you guys may have a different perspective on it, but, the voters should have somebody in that seat. And the process is being, done. Aldridge elected. He resigned, or he's going to resign. He's going to have to resign. And so that leaves the seat vacant.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you follow procedures that already exist in the government. If there's a problem with the procedure, you go through the proper procedure to change the procedure.
Yeah,
right.
But the governor doesn't have to.
Now, now according to the law, the governor can simply leave it.
He can just leave it vacant until 2024.
Until the scheduled election.
Right, until the November of 2024 elections.
Okay,
so he can do that legally. There's nothing illegal about that.
Yeah, and that would be immoral to me.
That's an awfully long stretch.
Yeah. So I mean, it speaks to what you just said, Mike. Is that I think those people deserve to have representation, even if that representation is somebody we wouldn't like.
Yep. 314-912-1019. All right. End of last week, you've probably seen the video. Riley Gaines, the woman who should be the national swimming champion, collegiate swimming champion, but is not because a dude beat her in women's competition. She was assaulted, and she was basically held hostage at a campus over, I guess that was Friday, I think is when that happened.
Yeah.
So I've got the reaction to that. The conversation isn't necessarily just about Riley Gaines, though, guys. It's just a highlight that violence is a tactic of the left in the United States right now. So I'm asking the question, what do we do about it? How do we respond? Let's talk about that right around 6:20 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. When it's important to you,
Stay informed.
It's on News Talk STL.
Donald Trump is the first former president of the United States ever to be indicted.
This is just unprecedented in American history. The only way out now is to win.
News, analysis, and opinion.
It's insulting to other prosecutors. It's demeaning of the rule of law.
I don't think Bragg has the goods.
If they don't land a conviction, it's only going to serve to help Trump.
101.9 and 94.1.
We'll see how this plays out.
News Talk STL.
When it comes to taking care of your house and getting ready for the summer and all that hot weather, you have got to make sure that your windows are doing the job that need to be done. My mom mentioned to me last week she was in town for a day, actually coming back into town today, and she goes, I got to get a couple windows replaced. I'm like, I know who you should call. You need to call Window World. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Window World. One, because I want to save my mom money, because Window World, as you know, you've seen the slogan, and they've earned it, simply the best for less. And I want mom to call 314-993-1800, because not only is she going to get windows that are double strength, and these things are going to last much longer than your typical window, but they're actually going to be less expensive, probably even less expensive than the generic ones that she could go to the home improvement store and get, and then just find some contractor or somebody to put them in herself. But what I'm hoping she's going to do, and I think she is going to call Window World and get those windows put in, because then she's going to have a lifetime warranty, covers the glass breakage if that were to ever happen, but it's probably not, all parts, and labor. They will take care of you long after you buy a window from them and improve your home with those windows. Window World windows are so durable. They stand behind them and they stand on them. I'm telling you, if you come and get your free in-home estimate, they will literally stand on the window. You're going to see just how strong these things are. So as we head into the hot weather, make your home more energy efficient and protect your home from, these storms are so strong these days. They offer 18 months, same as cash financing with approved credit, and they are just better than other companies when it comes to their commitment to customer service. I've quizzed them on it. I've talked to them about it. They are passionate about that. So find out for yourself. 314-993-1800. You can learn more at windowworld.com, but just give them a call and set up your free, no-pressure in-home estimate at 314-993-1800.
If you're 19 or older with certain underlying medical conditions such as asthma or diabetes, you can get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease that can disrupt your life for weeks. If you're 65 or older, it is also recommended you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. No matter the season, talk to your doctor about vaccination today and learn more at lung.org/protect yourself. A message from the American Lung Association in collaboration with Pfizer.
Furnished by the American Lung Association.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point. The culture wars battlefront has shifted rapidly over the past decade, from gay marriage to BLM to abortion to transgenderism. I'm old enough to remember when the battle of the sexes and the ERA were things. Now they seem somewhat quaint, as depending on the day and setting, we may not even be allowed to define the sexes or distinguish between them. I say that somewhat facetiously. Of course we're allowed to make such distinctions, and most people still do. It's just that there's a very vocal activist set seemingly intent on shouting down anyone who dares to challenge their version of how things ought to be. Today. That could always change tomorrow. Two arenas in which these battles are currently playing out are women's spaces and women's sports. Those who have the temerity to question whether it's appropriate to allow biological males into women's restrooms and locker rooms or to compete in women's sporting events are called names, screeched at, sometimes even physically assaulted for their trouble. Have you noticed, though, that these skirmishes all seem to be a one-way street? They involve the intrusion of males into female facilities or activities. We really don't hear about issues with biological females in men's rooms or men's athletic competitions. Why is that, do you suppose?
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter at SmoozyQ and keep listening to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Tune in to us at 8 p.m. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Well, that was kind of a fortuitous information segment there. Susie Moore talking about the entire conflict over men getting into women's spaces and people not being allowed to speak when they disagree with the leftist narrative, and Nick Schroer doing the line right there because Nick's going to be with us at 8:05. Okay, Mike Ferguson here with Gabe and Stell. It is 6:24. Okay, so we got another case of leftist violence, but we should be used to that by now. I mean, honestly, and I'm not trying to be flippant here, guys, but we're used to that by now.
Yeah.
Is that leftist turn to violence? One, if they don't have the votes. Leftists turn to violence if they are losing in the narrative, if they don't like the legislature's doing. Now, again, there's a leftist out there that's going, oh yeah, but you guys are missing a great big one. No. I know that there was violence by people on the right in very, very big ways recently as well. But what I'm talking about is consistently throughout the year. you've got far more cases of violence by the left. And just this past week, Riley Gaines, the former University of Kentucky swimmer, who should have been the national champion, but she was beaten by a man, Thomas. He goes by the name Leah Thomas. And so she's now going around to campuses and doing media tours. She was on with Chris and Tim, a week and a half ago or something like that, talking about her speaking. And she went to San Francisco State University, which is going to...
It's going to go great.
It's going to go ugly, out there. And so when you look at the video that happened, a bunch of crazed leftists and crazed tranny people, one of them, that dude dressed up like a woman, screaming at her. The Turning Point USA folks are the ones who organized the event on campus. They were accosted. They were assaulted. Riley Gaines was assaulted. Police had to rush her into like a classroom or conference room or something just to keep her safe. And she was barricaded in there.
And held hostage.
Yeah, for 3 hours because they were demanding to get paid money in order to leave. So they were literally trying to hold her for ransom while they were screaming at her for coming to speak about protecting women and women's spaces. So you've got a less leftist agitated crowd angry about someone speaking up for women, which used to be the cool thing to do on university campuses.
It's kind of amazing how effective the left is at weaponizing people to support their own destruction. I mean, I've seen it in the black community, and I've seen it obviously now in the feminist circles, where you have women who used to be fighting for women, fighting for women exclusive areas, women exclusive realms of being, so that they don't have to feel pressure or fear or whatever it is that they say they felt in the presence of men. And now they're making demands that fully intact men should be able to be in locker rooms with changing women. It's kind of and if you say anything about it, we're going to hurt you. That's an amazing turn of events, and it only took 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Stella. I mean, you look at not just the Riley Gaines thing, because this is the latest flashpoint. Okay, but you look at whenever there's a court ruling or a political ruling or something. I mean, you can look at what happened in the Tennessee state capitol. You can look at a number of other areas where many leftists feel that actual physical force is justified, and if that means intimidating people, if that means attacking, assaulting people, not to mention back to the BLM protest and riots and attacks of the last couple of years, they look at that in a very Alinsky-like mindset of saying the ends justify the means. And the next step on this, and I'm trying not to step out too far ahead of ourselves, but people have died. And so the mindset that you're starting to see overtly is they're wrong, therefore hurt, maim, or possibly even kill them until we just have the society that we want.
And literally, you look at college campuses, and the script has been flipped. You're supposed to be able to have free speech on a college campus. You're supposed to have opposing ideas available so that students can actually get an idea of, oh, I see this different perspective. You don't have that anymore, and it's as though everybody has totally flipped the script. And I think back to the 60s, and I've heard numerous people over the weekend say, why is Turning Point USA going into these universities? Well, it's exposing exactly what's going on in these universities. Granted, it's putting lives on the line. I hate to say that, but you are risking injury going in. But I give them credit for having the guts to go onto these college campuses and actually expose what's going on.
Yeah, Turning Point USA got what they wanted, which is the video of somebody getting attacked.
Yes.
Including their own people. So that's going to happen at a place like San Francisco. So good idea, bad idea. It's exposing it for the rest of the country, but somebody literally put their body and life on the line, probably knowing somebody was going to get punched.
Here's one of the interesting things about these sort of public movements. If you actually, as much as the kids think that they are riding the wave of the 60s and they're using their protest culture to drive change, they're doing exactly the opposite of that. And it's actually people like Turning Point USA in putting themselves in harm's way who are doing the same type of work that was done during the Civil Rights Movement. See, what they would do is they would do something that's perfectly reasonable, perfectly acceptable if it was somebody else. But, hey, I'm going to go sit at a lunch counter. I'm going to go, get on the bus and sit in this seat. It should be perfectly reasonable. And the unreasonable response by the people in authority is what needs to be highlighted for all of America to see.
One of the administration officials of San Francisco State University thanked all the peaceful protesters and then sent links to here are the places that can help you heal.
Yeah, I saw that. Now that's...
That's amazing.
It's an amazing thing. And it speaks to something else, too. I've seen a bit of the whole both sidesism that comes out. And yes, as much as we need to acknowledge that there are people who claim to be on our side who do stupid things, the thing is, we are pretty consistent in calling them out. I mean, all the national figures, all the people in authority, they're pretty consistent in calling them out for the most part.
For the most part, and there's some things that should be called out more on our side. And I get in trouble.
Probably,
when I do it, but whatever.
But the thing is, you can't make the comparison though. You know what I mean? Once you make the comparison, it's like, well, it isn't even about that. The left making their points about, oh, well, that shouldn't happen. No, they're co-signing this stuff.
Right.
They're saying, oh, you were the ones who were traumatized, even though you held a lady for ransom for 3 hours.
Right. And then they finally had to bring in city police because campus police would not protect her.
Yeah, because they knew who signs their checks.
Okay, so we've got to get to an information segment here because we're going to get some economic updates here and job numbers updates here in just a minute. What do we do about it now? We know, for instance, in this case, Turning Point USA or whatever organization, Students for Life, you can name any of them, whether it's going onto a college campus or going into speaking at another public forum. We know that this is part of the tactic the left has. What do we do about it?
I say we keep doing it. Kirk Cameron going into libraries.
Yeah, that's one.
Keep doing it, Kirk. Keep exposing everything that's going on because otherwise they win, and we can't let them win.
I think we definitely need to press a lot more charges. People need to go to prison. And hey, if we expose a prosecutor of being unwilling or ill-equipped to do that, that's another person that the American people can see is not on the side of law and order.
Yeah, Riley Gaines has already said she's filing a lawsuit, over the assault that happened. That's what it is. You look at the video. It's an assault.
Take them all
That's
down.
What it is. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these groups, whether they're student groups or whether it's outside of a campus, they're going to have to spend money on actual armed security. As well.
Yeah,
this isn't a new thing. This is the standard. This is the norm now. All right, just ahead, mixed results when it comes to the latest job numbers and economy. What does it mean to us? We're going to talk to our friends from the Competitive Enterprise Institute about that in about 3 minutes on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Place to talk. The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Hey guys, Ken Kruger. I've gotten to know these guys really well over the last few years. Yes, St. Louis Bath and Renovation. They're the most trusted name in bathroom remodelers in the St. Louis area. In fact, if you need bathroom repairs, complete bathroom remodeling, or handyman services, call St. Louis Bath and Renovation at 314-477-6476 or email Rob at stlbr.com. That's St. Louis Bath and Renovation.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Kama Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Kama Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in 2023 are at the Chosen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. For more, visit Kama Flight on Instagram at KAMAFLIGHT.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Where's Cooper? There are hundreds of thousands of people that are trying to come to this country illegally. This president has allowed roughly more than 1 million to come. You normally don't think of people coming to go to a place that's like a prison, to a place that is thought of as a place of injustice.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL. The Dan Bongino Show.
Put your mind for a second in the mind of the liberal. This is why they're freaking crazy people, because they don't know what to think. They're told by their liberal overlords in the media, the border's secure.
Weekdays at 11.
Do I believe my lion eyes, or do I believe Anderson Cooper?
On News Talk STL.
Dan Bongino here. Keep it on News Talk STL because my show starts at 11 a.m. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, right at the end of the week, we got some updated reports regarding the job market and various parts of the economy because there are so many freaking moving parts right now. You've got inflation, you've got interest rates, you've got job numbers, but do they really mean what they used to mean because of workforce participation? All of those things. What do they actually mean? Because I think there's enough shortage of understanding of it that everybody gets to spin it their own way.
Yeah, easily.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's find out what it actually means. I'm Mike Ferguson, got Gabe Pfeiffer here, got Stel Pontigas here. Don't forget, every weekday from 11 to 2, News Talk STL is the exclusive home of Dan Bongino on 101.9 and on 94.1. Okay, Joshua Bandock is with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. And Joshua, first of all, appreciate you being on the program. Good morning. Last week, the numbers, the report that came out really had to do with the jobs numbers. And there was an increase in the number of jobs that were created in the economy. What do the numbers actually tell us on a surface level? Because that just opens up the door to more questions about what those numbers mean.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, first, good morning, St. Louis, and good morning, Mike, Gabe, and Stellan. Thanks for having me. So I do think that the good top-line data, that they do hide some worrying trends in the labor force. So the top-line data sound really good, 3.5% unemployment and 236,000 new jobs. I think if we dig a little bit deeper, there is some reason for concern that the job market is cooling. So for a long time, the labor force participation rate, which is how many people are either working or looking for work, that's been low historically, and it stays low. We saw the number of new job openings decrease by 600,000 the previous month. That means that a lot of employers are either not hiring or hiring fewer people. And those are just two of the worrying trends that indicate the labor market is probably starting to cool a little bit.
Good morning, Joshua. Gabe here. So how is the labor market being affected by the rate changes right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, so good question. I think what we're seeing is a lot of companies are not investing as much as they would have, say, 6, 12, 18 months ago. They don't feel comfortable making those investments, whether that's in people or whether that's in like sort of goods, projects, things like that. So they're a little more tepid, and they have to think a lot more about how much more they're paying for services across the economy because interest rates are so much higher. So it sort of trickles down to pretty much everything they do.
Joshua, let me follow up on that. When you look at, you talk about the job market cooling a little bit and companies not hiring as many, how much of this has to do with people not willing to take the jobs that are out there right now? Because for a long time now, we've had that issue where companies are saying whether it's an entry-level job or a mid-level job, we can't find enough people to work. And so, you know, salaries and hourly rates went up probably above what the actual value of the labor is, but they had to do it. And so now if they're pulling back a little bit, is that in relation to this, or is this more of an inflation thing?
Well, the general point about people not wanting to take jobs is a great one. I mentioned labor force participation rate. It's a statistic we don't look at a lot, and it's really important because in early 2000, January, it was more than 4 percentage points higher. And I know that's just sort of data speak, but what that means is that if the same number of people were looking for jobs or working today, we'd have millions more of Americans. Over 6 million people would be in the workforce. So a lot of people have just stepped out of the workforce for a number of reasons. And I don't think that's good for the economy or probably good for those individuals. So this has been a long-term historic trend that we've seen, and that's really been accelerated with COVID. A lot of people just haven't come back in the workforce.
Good morning, Joshua. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. No, please go ahead.
My question is trying to line up the stats because we're looking at thousands of layoffs on the tech side and on the retail side, and it doesn't seem to me like the numbers are really matching up very well. What do you think about the numbers that we're getting from the administration?
Yeah, well, so I think if we look at the different sectors, right, so you'll see a lot of tech layoffs, and they've been really high profile. So I think that's cause for sort of medium-term concern in the next couple of months as we see more companies starting to follow that. It is true that small businesses do most of the hiring in the economy. So although you hear Amazon laying off like 10,000 people, Microsoft, you don't capture all the same small businesses hiring people. In general, the data are a little bit complicated. I mean, there is good news here. It's not like we have 12% unemployment or anything like that. It's still sort of medium term, I think, some concern. Short term, it's still a good time to be looking for a job because there are still almost 10 million openings in the country. The problem is that those skills aren't matching up, and the people, there's a lot of people that are not interested in engaging in the workforce that could take those jobs.
All right, we're visiting with Joshua Bandock from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. So where do we go from here? I mean, what are the indicators telling us? I mean, from a policy perspective, what would be the wise moves, not just in the governmental sector or the regulatory sector, but maybe for business owners out there who are looking to see how this is going to affect them?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I guess two things there. From the regulatory standpoint, because that's a lot of what we focus on at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, there are a lot of regulations that are making it harder either for people to find jobs or for companies to grow. Probably a great example of that is occupational licensing, where the government says you need a permission slip to do things like arrange flowers. So I'd love to see a lot of those regulations go away. For business owners, I think they're going to end up being a little more cautious between high inflation, the bank crisis, cooling the economy. They're going to end up being a little more cautious than they were 6 months ago to find workers. And I think we're also seeing workers a little more cautious about changing jobs. The quit rate, which is how many people quit their jobs the previous month, that's been ticking down. So workers are deciding, maybe you need to stay put. Maybe this isn't a great time to change jobs.
I think most of us aren't too worried about losing our jobs, but the changes to the economy right now are concerning on some level. So what should we be looking to do with our personal finances to kind of shore ourselves up as the economy environment keeps changing?
Oh, personal finances. Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor, so want to be careful with that.
Sure.
I guess I would say. People are getting a little more cautious now. May not be a bad time just to be a little more cautious with your resources, just to kind of see how things play out. Maybe not the best time to dump all your money in the stock market.
So we're going to see a lot more savings and cutbacks on spending, you're thinking?
I think we could, yeah.
Hey, regarding the Joshua, regarding the companies and employers maybe not investing in hiring as many people, could that also translate over to inventory purposes? I mean, when we go to the store, could there be a situation where, they just don't stock as much stuff because you don't want to take as much risk of something staying on the shelf and losing money that way? That's not necessarily a supply chain, but if they're going to be cautious in hiring, could they be cautious in buying an inventory as well?
Absolutely, and I think you guys are touching on a lot of really important things here, is that when sort of anxiety enters employees and employers' minds, it does really trickle throughout not just the business, but the economy. So I think you guys are really right to worry about what this means. For example, from inventory standpoint, that employer might say, I don't know, we don't want to overstock. So, and I think they could say we don't want to overinvest, whether it's in people or goods or anything else, infrastructure, things like that. So when this anxiety kicks in, it's something that can get kicked up a couple of notches real quick.
All right, we've got to get to an information segment here in just a moment. But, Joshua, I'm so glad you pointed out the workforce participation rate. I've been arguing on the air, and I'm not an economist, but I've been arguing on the air that is probably a better reflection of what we should be looking at than just the unemployment rate, because that could mean so many different things to so many different people. We often don't look at the right things to know exactly where we are, I think.
Absolutely. That for me is the most important piece of data that we could look at for really how healthy the workforce is.
All right, Joshua, how do we follow what you and your colleagues do? Where do we find you on the web, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, check us out at CEI.org, Competitive Enterprise Institute, to learn more about what we do.
All right, are you on social media?
I'm on LinkedIn, otherwise not really.
Good for you. I don't blame you. I don't blame you, and I'm a little jealous, to be really honest.
Stay out of the cesspool.
All right, Joshua Bannock from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Hey, appreciate the insight today, Joshua.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, 314-912-1019. Hey, Gabe, I want to talk about something that's right up your alley.
Okay.
Let's talk about some aeroplanes.
Yay!
There's a new idea. Somebody's saying, hey, you guys should look at this.
Okay.
Can you imagine going on a flight and never dealing with a middle seat?
Oh, that sounds fun.
There's an idea for that.
Okay.
I want to get your thoughts on that because it looks like it, in concept, possibly could work, which is probably why the airlines aren't going to do it.
Oh, no.
I hate commercial flying. I just can't stand it anymore.
You don't like the cattle car method?
No, I hate it. And it's not just the middle seat. I can deal with the middle seat, but it's just the overall experience. This would make the experience better, which, again, is probably why airlines won't do it.
Yeah.
All right, 314-912-1019. I'll tell you about that right around 6:50 on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off to you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
And a really good idea that might make flying more comfortable for everybody. for everybody.
Which means the airlines won't go for it. but-
Exactly, Stell.
I'm really curious about this idea.
All right, I'm going to tell you about that in about 30 seconds here. Also, at 7:05, let's talk about the campaign trail. Again, it's getting interesting. We're getting more overt hints as to who's going to jump in and who's not. Excuse me. Get a little coffee there. And so we'll do that at 7:05. You could have an entire conversation about the Republican nomination for president and actually not talk about Donald Trump because there are so many other personalities. Now, nobody's actually going to do that, but you could actually do that for 10 minutes. But let's talk about the road to the White House on the Republican side at 7:05. Okay, so I found this on CNN's travel page. This is really interesting. There's a concept that's been put out there now. This isn't like officially from any airline or airline manufacturer, but what they're suggesting is you can get rid of the middle seat entirely. Because most flights that I go on, most flights my wife goes on, you go in there and it's a normal size big jet, and you've got, 2 seats or 3 seats on both sides, or you've got 2 seats on one side and 3 seats on another side, but there's always that stupid middle row.
Right.
And the etiquette on this is that if you're in the middle row, you're supposed to get both armrests.
Right, because
But nobody does that.
you the one side gets the window, the other side gets the aisle.
Right.
So your only benefit is get both armrests.
And I used to not mind the middle seat at all. I mean, it's still not the end of the world if I end up on the middle seat, but they've made the seats smaller to fit more seats in.
Now, have they made the seats smaller, or have people gotten bigger?
Yes. No, there was. They looked at, like, if you look over the last 25 years.
Yeah, you're right.
They have
It's both.
There's less leg room and the seats are smaller, so they could get, an extra 6 or 7 seats per flight in.
It's like at the ballpark.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
Same issue.
Which is circular reasoning, because then they want you to eat nachos and hot dogs the whole game and then wonder why you can't fit in the seat. But anyway, so somebody here has said, you know what, you could take basically the same size plane and you could make it into 3 compartments. Okay. So on the lower level on each side, you could have like 2 separate compartments with 2 seats on each side of an aisle. And then kind of in the middle above them, where the plane kind of curves over, you could do the same thing up there so that nobody would have a middle seat.
Now, what size plane are we talking here? Are we talking like the big international flight ones, or the
No.
the
We're talking
regional?
about domestic, across the U.S. flights. I mean, when you fly from St. Louis to, I don't know, Phoenix or whatever, the flights that you get on, that'd be probably a 747, maybe 757, that type of thing. They're saying that you could actually do that. You might have to go a little bit bigger, but you could get basically the same number of seats on the plane. And then not everybody would not be as crowded in as much, but you'd have about the same number of seats.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, are the cabins separated in terms of how you get into them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. These are separate cabins.
Okay.
So you'd have 3 separate cabins, and obviously there'd be a third of the people in each of those. So probably the same number of flight attendants, because I'm not supposed to say stewardess anymore. The same number of flight attendants would be able to take care of, the same number of people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some reason why they wouldn't do it, though.
Yeah. Well, but it'd be something where they would have to start the engineering, and then as the next round of planes rolled off the assembly line is the earliest you could do it. How long does it take to develop a new plane?
To develop a new interior, it's not that long at all.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, you got to remember, these things are rolling off the assembly lines like commercial cars. So like they're producing one gigantic airplane a day in Seattle right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild when you really think about, because out here where St. Louis does military planes, those are basically assembled more like a Bugatti. So it's kind of like hand assembled. There's only a few of them. They're really expensive, but that's because they're so high performance.
Right. Yeah. Now, is that because, are they putting out one new plane a day? Is that because older ones are being retired?
Yes. Yeah. Because
Okay.
there are so many planes being used by various airlines around the world that just to keep up with the demand of not only airplane retirements, but also growth, just general growth of air travel. Yeah, you got to basically produce one a day.
Yeah, because
of a certain kind.
Because I know that, I mean, that's one of the frustrating things over the last few years is that so many flights have been cut back because they want to make sure they are completely packed with passengers.
Yes.
I remember, 20 years ago, it was not unusual for me to be on a plane where there were, I mean, if I took an overnight or a red-eye flight, which I actually didn't, I liked doing because I could just sleep through the whole thing, and there'd be 10 people on it.
Yes, the overnight flights, I think, were the bane to a lot of airlines' existence because the last thing you want to do is send up an airplane that's not full. It's one of the most inefficient things you could do as an airline.
Yeah, but even ones that were half full. I mean, it was very common to be on a plane that had
and you could spread out.
2/3 full. Everybody spread out. Everybody was in a better mood.
Yeah,
including the flight crew. Everybody was in a better mood. But they don't say that. They want that thing packed in like sardines, but they do treat us like cattle.
Yeah, well, yes, and that's part of the problem is that the amount of throughput that you need for passengers on these things is pretty high in order to stay profitable. So if we were doubling down on our fossil fuels and things like that and bring down fuel costs, that might get better.
Exactly.
But that's a whole other story.
Okay, so if they're going to ban the middle seats, what else should they ban on flights to make them better?
Okay. All right. Now that's a really good question. I don't know, children. No, I'm kidding. I like kids.
I'm not totally opposed to that. I'm just
Mike's
saying.
thinking real hard over there. I said it as a joke because I mean the typical horror story is screaming child that won't shut up for 4 hours or something like that. Diaper being changed on the plane,
or put them together in their own cabin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have a kid's cabin.
Yeah.
And have the little kids in there.
You're not talking about like the luggage one down below. Just to be clear.
Maybe.
Right, yeah. How about maybe they should like ban like flight attendants from hawking credit card offers? I mean,
gosh,
just saying.
All of the constant bombardment with little tiny nickel and dime stuff that you get. I hate that. I don't know what it is, but it just rubs me the wrong way. It's like I'm trapped in this metal tube up here, and you're trying to sell me insurance or something. Go away. Go away.
Look at the magazine.
Give me my peanuts and shut up.
Magazine that's like promoting the destinations that I will never be able to afford to go to. But they got rid of Sky Mall. I love the Sky Mall magazines.
I love those just because I like to look at the stuff.
I know.
Basically, I was just like, hey, it was like it's very similar to back in the day when you'd get the Christmas catalog from JCPenney or Sears.
Right.
And you're not getting any of that stuff, but it's fun to look at.
I would spend hours going the JCPenney and Sears catalog. And you guys know me. I went right to the sporting goods.
Oh, of course.
And I'm looking at all the sporting goods stuff. And I was like, oh, look at that.
Exactly.
Oh,
but I don't know. Ban the absence of meals on planes. I want meals back, like full meals.
Yeah.
They just stopped. It's like, here's cookies and peanuts and stuff. I'm like, I want
peanuts.
I want a sandwich.
Yeah. All right, just ahead, road to the White House could get more crowded on the Republican side. I'll tell you what the hints are that are being dropped at 7:05.
In times of economic uncertainty and chaos, your money means nothing. You may not even be able to get it from your bank or ATM. And the money you do have in the stock market will go down and down. What you can bank on is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a reliable and trusted form of currency for thousands of years. Gold and silver have never been worth zero, and typically gold holds its value during economic turmoil. Call the Gold Hotline now and learn how to protect your money and your assets with gold and silver. And learn how to set up a new IRA or roll over your current one into a gold-backed IRA. Protect your money from the next market crash with gold and silver. Call now for your free gold guide.
800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. 800-281-4224. That's 800-281-4224.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get annuity do's and don'ts for baby boomers and the annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. That's 800-649-8619.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Communist China now into its third day of major air and sea military drills off the coast of Taiwan. It comes on the heels of the U.S. House Speaker's talks with Taiwan's leader.
All of that, of course, is in the context of China's anger, its response to the Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen meeting Kevin McCarthy. They see this as U.S. interference in what they see as China's internal policy. But of course, Taiwan wants closer ties with the United States. But what we're seeing now is China essentially coming out on its promise of reprisals after that meeting.
The BBC's Shaina Halil. Following last night's eruption of gunfire at a popular tourist destination, one big U.S. city will try to keep young people off the streets at night.
Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott says he plans to implement a 9 p.m. curfew for anyone 14 years old or younger and a 10 p.m. curfew for those younger than 17 during the summer months. The mayor's announcement comes after 2 teenagers were shot Sunday night while police were trying to break up a large crowd. 2 suspects are under arrest.
Correspondent Donna Warder says it happened at Baltimore's Inner Harbor and 2 shooting victims in the hospital. Sunshine, blue skies in the nation's capital today as thousands of kids and adults gather for the annual White House Easter egg roll.
It's a long-running Washington tradition dating back to 1878. On this day after Easter, kids participate in activities on the South Lawn, including egg rolling contests, games, and storytelling. In addition to those activities, they can stop by a variety of education stations. For the second year in a row, First Lady Jill Biden is dubbing the event the Eggucation Roll.
White House correspondent Greg Clugston. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 10 points, NASDAQ futures off 68. More on these stories, townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt, I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you called Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me, and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Life insurance is one of those things that just about everybody needs, but few people actually have. Hey, if you die unexpectedly without life insurance, guess what? You'll leave your family with even a bigger mess. Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. That's 800-979-3060.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare you!
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
I made the mistake of holding my Kofifi during that Kofifi dance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, spilled a little bit of it.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, we're about to, because this carpet's all getting ripped up anyway.
So it doesn't matter.
I can spill some more.
Oh, yeah.
See, watch.
Yay.
There it goes.
We're wild and crazy out here.
Yeah. Because of all that flooding that happened over Christmas, they still haven't replaced the new carpet. So
Yeah.
I asked our boss, Jeff, I'm like, I could just spill coffee whenever I want because I've done that a time or two back when I thought that was like a bad thing. He goes, yeah, sure, doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
All right. Campaign trail, the road to the White House for Republicans is a freaking mess at this point. So let's talk about it. Yay. All right. 7:06 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe Pfeiffer here. Got Stel Ponticus here. Don't forget, Rumble is where you want to go for your streaming, video streaming of us. Obviously, the News Talk STL streaming app is what we'd love to have you put on your phone and put in your Bluetooth. But Rumble is I think, where we're kind of gathering for the video streaming. We're going to get thrown off YouTube. We know that.
It's only a matter of time.
I've got at least one strike on me for Mike Ferguson in the Morning on YouTube. I don't remember what it was for. I think I might have two, but I know I have at least one. Vic and Ken have been thrown off again. The station's been thrown off of YouTube, so it's a matter of time before all of us get thrown off. We're still streaming on Facebook, obviously, and there's plenty of good stuff on our Facebook page here as well. But Rumble is really where to connect for the News Talk STL family for the video streaming. So check that out. And if you would, click on, when you're watching this, just click on it and share it on your social media pages and drive Twitter and Facebook nuts and share our links so other people can watch as well.
You know, I figured out the YouTube thing. They've got all those strikes against them. You can handle breaking balls a lot better. That's why you've only got one strike.
Oh, that's it.
That's what it is. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Makes sense.
So for now,
all breaking balls.
That's right. Oh, man. All right. So get this, Gabe. All right. He's been to Iowa already.
Okay.
Now Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made a stop in New Hampshire on Friday.
Oh, fancy that.
Yeah.
He's selling his book, right?
Yes.
It's a book. It's part of the book tour.
Absolutely. He headlined the state's annual GOP dinner on Friday. He's speaking in Ohio this week and South Carolina next week. In other words, he's making appearances in all of the key states. But also get this. Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina scheduled to appear in both Iowa and New Hampshire this week.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's kind of making the rounds as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Now, does Tim Scott have a book?
Yes. Well, not one.
Not a new
not this
one
year, but it came out. Was it summer or fall last year? It came out. I mean, I've got it. It's a really good read.
Sure.
I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. And I'm actually into the meat of the Ron DeSantis one at this point as well. I can do about 2 chapters, and then because of all my eye stuff, I get a headache. So I can read about a chapter or 2 at a time, and then I got to stop and do something else for a little bit.
Right.
But
I think you're right on Tim's. I think it was some time because Trey Gowdy talked to him quite a bit about it last year, and he and Trey are really good friends.
Yeah. And they had some really good conversations on Gowdy's show.
Yeah.
I think it was.
That's right.
So
you're right.
Tim Scott and Ron DeSantis two political heavyweights. Ron DeSantis, obviously the better known of those two. Nikki Haley is crisscrossing everywhere, but she's kind of overshadowed by everything with Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, I think all of the announced candidates are
Yeah.
kind of like just in the shadow of the Trump indictment news right now.
Right. And that's probably going to be the case for the next several months.
Yes.
We'll see whether or not this indictment in New York actually gets to a trial or whether it's just tossed before then.
Now, do we even have like a schedule of events?
Yes. The
Okay.
next hearing is in early December, right around December 4th or 5th or something like that. So early December.
All right. So just before the real the meat of the campaign gets
Yes.
started. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
exactly. Now, then also whether or not anything comes out of Florida for the documents in his house thing or something happens in Georgia with the election thing, we'll see.
So
But
many
it's a
things.
safe bet to say that Donald Trump is going to stay in the news headlines.
Yeah,
with
I mean,
that.
oddly enough, I mean, you've talked about this before. It's almost as though the Democrats want him front and center all the time. You know, it's like they don't want him to leave the news, so they're going to constantly be bombarding him with this. I mean, on top of wanting to throw him in prison, which they honestly want to do. Which they're never really going to do.
Right.
But
We were never going to see Hillary Clinton in prison, and they're never going to see Donald Trump in prison.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
just the
Yeah,
reality.
just kind of the kind of sad reality thing. So yeah, it feels like that they don't want any of the other candidates to have any oxygen to move their campaigns.
Right. And they also raise a lot of money when you keep Donald Trump demonized in the headlines.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And you know still I think you were talking about this before that CNN and NBC and MSNBC, they lost a ton of money when Trump went out of the news post January essentially.
Ton of ratings too.
Yeah, ton of ratings. You know, all their audiences basically fled. It's like, oh, we don't have Donald Trump to be mad about anymore right now because we got Joe Biden, and so let's they all left, they all fled. So now it's as though they're trying to recapture all of that.
Right. Okay, so Ron DeSantis and Tim Scott, at this point, I'm going to maintain, given the Donald Trump indictment sucking the oxygen out of the room entirely, I don't think they need to declare a campaign right now. They've got an excuse to go travel around and speak at stuff because they're doing a book tour.
Yeah.
And because they're elected officials, and that's what you do. If you are elected to something, you travel somewhere outside your home and you speak. That's just the way that it is if you
Right.
get any prominence.
Right.
You know, just about every governor does it. They travel around. That's just the way that it goes.
And if you have a good team, that they're basically soliciting other people to invite you. You know, it's like, oh, I'm responding to an invitation. I didn't plan on going out. I'm responding, except your team is out there beating the bushes to get the invitation in the first place. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. Nikki Haley, second out of the gate behind Donald Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy shortly after her. And I've got a soundbite from Vivek Ramaswamy here in a minute. And so they're basically got to feel like they are running uphill after a mudslide.
Oh, absolutely.
Trying to gain some kind of traction. So even if their messaging otherwise is good, or they're hitting the areas that would normally get people to really pay attention to them, it's really hard to get those eyeballs and earballs right now.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know we don't have earballs, but you know.
Plus, we have a mainstream media that is not interested in reporting anything regarding them.
Yep.
That's
So-
true. There's essentially been a media blackout on those guys because I haven't seen them. Nobody's talked about any of their recent social media stuff, you know, or speeches that they're giving anywhere. Like I haven't heard boo about them.
I mean, if let's say that one of these candidates comes to the St. Louis area, which I'm sure that they will at some point.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to be a high priority just because Missouri's primary is so far along the process that we're not a trendsetter. Illinois, this would be a
Maybe.
good thing to come and hit in Illinois. But the both states are valuable, so I'm sure we're going to have them here at some point, and we'll have them on the show at some point. But think about the buzz that would happen over a Nikki Haley appearance speaking at whatever county Republican event or just hosting, an event with her or Vivek Ramaswamy compared to if Donald Trump were to come back to St. Louis.
Right.
Night and day difference.
Absolutely. Gosh, yeah. I mean, we've seen the last time the Trump train kind of came through this area and they had a big rally. Where was that?
It was at one of the airfields, I think.
I think it was.
It was where the private jet landed. It was out there.
It drew people from Mississippi. I mean, that kind of thing. Like there were people, basically caravans coming from all over this, the region.
Yeah.
And they all kind of converged in that area, and it was wild.
Well, they're okay. So their politics are very different, but I kind of see this the way that I saw the Ron Paul thing back in the day, back from like '88 to the mid '90s, or the mid and late '90s. Is that Ron Paul would draw a big crowd?
Sure.
But you would also see license plates from all over the country, and there were people who would go to every single one of these things. Now, that's not a huge point. I mean, I'm sure he would draw a big crowd from St. Louis. That's not the question.
Right.
But Tim Scott would draw a good crowd.
I think so.
I'm going to argue Tim Scott would probably outdraw Nikki Haley. I really do. I think amongst conservatives.
Out here?
Yeah. Ron DeSantis
Probably.
would do very well as well. I mean, Ron DeSantis, if you look at like the beautiful Scheidegger Center at Lindenwood University, I think you get, I think he fills that easily.
Oh, yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Donald Trump needs a place much bigger.
Yes.
He needs Family Arena or something like that.
Right.
To accommodate his crowds. That's just the reality of it. Vivek Ramaswamy, he's not. I mean, he's going to have a very energetic base, but I don't know that he fills anything as big. But I don't know that what size of building you fill is the key factor.
Right. I mean, there's a little bit of nuance through the whole thing. I think you are right that Vivek. I think his candidacy would probably get a bit more support out here than Nikki Haley's, just because. I tend to think that the conservatives out here in Missouri, they're very, very cautious of any hint of swampiness, right? So, even if Nikki Haley she hits all the right notes in her speeches and her policy positions, things like that, there's just a little bit of whiff of swampiness on her just because she's been a part of the machine, right? Vivek being an outsider, I think he draws a bit more eyeballs and attention and out here, especially out here with Missouri conservatives.
Okay, so over the weekend, here's part of what he had to say.
I think that Donald Trump did this country a great service by exposing a lot of the problems and the administrative rot of the corrupt federal government. But we're only going to go so far with vengeance and with grievance. And what I'm doing is I'm going to take that agenda further than Trump ever did by doing it based on a moral foundation.
I think that's a really interesting angle on this. Again, I don't think that he's actually going to have a chance to win the nomination, but I really think he's saying interesting things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every time he opens his mouth, he's kind of pushing the envelope. He's changing a bit of the conversation. I don't. What do you think, though?
I got to be honest with you. If Vivek came to town, Chaffetz Arena would be a great venue for him, but campus situations have totally flipped, and it probably would never work. But Chaffetz would be a great place to see him.
You think he can fill that?
I think so, just because
okay.
you could draw people from both sides of the river, and you could cut off a portion of the venue. You could make it a half or 2/3 of the size.
Yeah, which is normally what they do, is they put the stage kind of in the middle, for concerts and speaking, things like that. So, okay.
So you could cut it to 6,000 or 7,000 as opposed to the 10 or 11 that it holds when it's full.
Yeah. You know what's really weird? I've never been in Chaffetz Arena.
Really?
Yeah. I've been to Family Arena. I've been to Lindenwood's stuff. I mean, obviously, I've been to the Dome, but I've actually never been to like a slew ball game.
Wait a minute.
I've never actually been there, and I've never been to one of the concerts there.
Have I ever been there?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've been.
I've been to
either.
Enterprise. I've been to Enterprise. I've been to all of them except that one right there. So
it's a great venue.
Yeah. So, and I think there's this. Oh, I'm heavy. I know I'm heavy on the time here.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that a lot of people love to get caught up in who's going to draw the bigger crowd. I don't know how well that translates into votes throughout a essentially rural state like Illinois, Missouri.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Right.
I agree.
I think so. But I think they'd be interesting.
Folks want to come out and see them. That's great.
Right.
Good.
Right. Absolutely. So it's going to be really basically interesting. And I don't think any of the other candidates or potential candidates, I don't think they need to have a rush to make a declaration, to be real honest.
Yeah.
So I think especially Tim Scott and Ron DeSantis, if they're going to run, they can do the book tour using wink, wink, nudge, nudge, air quotes. They can do that for probably as long as they really need to, and just wait for the right time to make it official if they're going to do it. Okay, just ahead here, Tashara and Sam finally acknowledge reality on something. How nice is that?
Occasionally.
A little bit late.
It happens.
The bigger question is, what did they actually learn from all of their mistakes? Well, they're not going to admit their mistakes. We'll talk about that at 7:22 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You want to give me more information. You want to take the place of what I trust.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Monday is, of course, Easter Monday. We'll be back in the saddle with former U.S. Senator Jim Talon at 425 and Susie Moore side by side with Red State.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Hey, Colombo here for the great team at All Solutions Pest Control. We've been using pest control services at our home for years, and the results we've had with All Solutions are second to none. So if you're experiencing a pest problem, or more importantly, want to prevent a problem, All Solutions Pest Control are the ones to call. Right now, you can take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer. Learn more and contact them now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
School choice is an idea whose time has come. It's flourishing in many states, just not in Missouri. Take charter schools, a great alternative for parents whose kids may be trapped in a failing school district. But charter schools are currently only available to families in just 3 of 520 school districts: Kansas City, the city of St. Louis, and Normandy. Open enrollment allows students to enroll in a district other than the one in which they live. It's important because rural schools may not offer all the advanced classes larger districts do. Open enrollment does exist in Missouri, but participation is highly restricted. And the Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA program, needs to be expanded so many more parents of students with disabilities and low-income students can access it. Charter schools, open enrollment, ESAs. If they're good for some children, they should be good for all children. Check out our 2023 blueprint, Moving Missouri Forward, at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Fox News commentary.
Kamala Harris won't do her job as czar of all things, but when she saw the chance to jump on the race card, she jumped on the plane and came to Nashville. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Harris paid Nashville, Tennessee a visit over the weekend, not to meet the families of the 6 Christians murdered by the trans, not to applaud the brave officers of the Nashville Police Department, but to meet 2 Democrats who led an insurrection at the Capitol and perpetuate a bold-faced lie. Tennessee Republicans showed a couple of loudmouth insurrection leaders what it's like to be in the legislative minority here in Tennessee. The media and VP Harris will tell you Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled because they're black and spoke out against gun violence, and that would be a lie. No, these 2 Democrats were expelled because they led a disorderly, aggressive, and militant protest at the Capitol 2 weeks ago. Welcome to the red state of Tennessee, where elections have consequences. If Democrats controlled the legislature, they would have done the same thing times 5, and we all know it. Well, not here in Tennessee. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
The tides are changing.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
The Democratic Party doesn't stand with what I stand for.
News Talk STL.
Hey everybody, it's Paul Kurtman. Make sure you join me every Saturday from 12 to 1 here on News Talk STL for the Paul Kurtman Show. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I'm just going to say in front of everybody, I love Stryper.
Calling on you.
Yes.
It's fun.
No apologies. At me, don't at me, whatever. I love Striper.
I love reading comments about their videos from
The
folks
80s.
who don't understand any of the lyrics because a lot of the times they're very upfront Christian lyrics,
Oh,
and they'll say, hey, I'm an atheist, but golly, these guys are great.
Yeah. Well, that's what's funny is because they're still putting out basically an album a year, and they are much harder and more metal-like now than they ever were. Like, this is from the mid-'80s.
Yeah, this is straight hairband.
Great
style.
harmonies, though. Those guys are talented. I saw them at Del Mar Hall, I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. It was like the concert I'd been dying to see since 1986. And I finally saw them a few years ago. And it was it was funny because my wife went with me. Remember, my wife grew up at Mississippi Nights.
Right.
You know, watching The Urge and Pale Divine and, you know, everybody like that.
Right.
And so we get there, and there's a DJ for one of the local rock stations who does like an 80s rock show. And he gets up there and he does like the, you know, hey, these are my new friends. And he's supposed to hype everybody up and the guy had no idea what Stryper's all about. No idea about their unapologetic Christian, you know, lyrics and, you know, statements and all this kind of stuff. And he gets up there, and they had an album out at the time here. Now, don't get mad at me, parents who are in the car right now. I'm first of all telling you the name of the album, and it is an actual theological statement.
You can abbreviate if you want.
Well, but when you put it in context, it's the album was called God Damn Evil.
Right.
That is a theological statement.
Yes.
And so this guy gets up there. And of course, you know, the opening bands were done and everybody's excited because the main act is coming up and Stryper's there. And you see Robert Sweet's drums everywhere, which is a production in and of itself. And this guy gets up there and he goes, these are my new friends, Stryper. Let's welcome and let's have some GD fun.
Oh, no.
Silence.
Right.
The place went silent. And he's looking around like, but I'm the rock DJ here. And he had no clue what the audience was all about. And, you know, but it was also funny because my wife was like, I wondered what happened to the youth group kids of the 80s and 90s. Here they are.
Here they are.
They're here to rock out with a heavy metal band, and they all look like they could do your taxes. And she wasn't wrong.
You're not wrong.
There were a few khakis with polo shirts tucked in. I'm just saying that it did happen. It was out there, but that was so much fun.
Oh, man.
I love that that's in the bed and bump music list now. That's a great song too. All right. After all that, it's 7:26.
Oh, hi. Yeah, we're doing a race show.
We got news and stuff here to talk about.
Yeah.
Got Gabe here. Got Stell here. Okay, so on Friday, right at the conclusion of this show, I kind of felt like Vic Porcelli with news breaking at 11 o'clock. Right at 9 o'clock, both the city of St. Louis and the county of St. Louis jointly issued a statement to Shara Jones and Sam Page, their administrations, announcing that they had finally officially lifted the COVID declarations of emergency. Now, they were the only ones on the Missouri side that had still had this stupid thing in place that nobody outside of government and hospitals were paying any attention to.
You know, I kind of feel like it's what happens when somebody kind of admits something, but they do it under their breath. It's like, okay, so what are we doing? It's like, we're going to lift the I'm sorry. So you say that again. It's like, oh, we're going to lift the things.
And they did the thing with like a little kid where he puts his hands in his pockets and looks down and kind of kicks the rug and fine.
It's fine. Okay.
Fine.
We're going to lift the emergency. It's fine. We're going to lift the what? The emergency. What? The emergency.
Tell them what you're doing, Sammy.
We're going to lift the emergency, okay?
Gosh. That's how I took it.
Joint
my
statement.
goodness.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
joint statement because they're, I guess, joined at the hip on this kind of thing. 3 years. COVID's been over for over 2 years. You could argue 2.5 years. You could actually, looking back, argue that this was not the so-called pandemic that everybody says that we were supposed to be scared to death of. But at the very least, Gabe, this thing's been over for 2 years.
Well, at the very least, the government response to the pandemic should have, I mean, besides it should never have happened to begin with the way it did, it should have ended very, very quickly as all of the other places that kind of realized, oh wait, after the panic settles down, you got Governor Parsons, you got various mayors kind of around, you got people in a lot of the red states. They realized it's like, wait a minute, something's not right here. Okay, I shouldn't have done that. I'm rescinding all the things. They knew this back in like what? Spring of 2020.
Yeah, 2021 at the very least.
At the very,
yeah,
oh
probably
my gosh.
fall of 2020.
Oh yeah, by fall of 2020, I think all the people who realized the scam part of the scamdemic, they kind of opted out and they said, okay, you know what, everybody stay open, but here's some guidance, here's what's happening, here's the information you might need to make your personal decisions, blah blah blah. You know what? That's the actual function of government, and they were doing it right. Pretty early on.
And instead, they were relying on people like Faisal Khan.
Yeah. Our guys out here, our county and city police, they said, well, we want to be really careful and make sure that the government is oppressing you on every. That we're protecting you on every level with your health.
Yeah. So, and in Illinois, technically, the state's declaration of emergency is still in effect.
Oh, gosh.
Because J.B. Pritzker has extended it like 30 times.
Now, hasn't the federal government still? I think we talked about this earlier, right? The federal government is not officially lifting the declaration of the emergency until
when? Still,
never. No,
they've already announced.
My anniversary.
Yeah, there you go. May 11th.
So
May
that's
11th.
That's
May
Joe.
11th. Yeah.
That's Joe Biden's present to you and Kathy is that you don't have to wear masks anymore.
I really appreciate that. So we can kiss without masks.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to play the Kamala Harris game.
You have the big piece of plastic right down the middle of the bed.
Yeah.
Like you're at the bank.
When I stopped to think about the madness that was when we were deep in it, remember the craziness that was going on? The people kissing with masks on, the people trying to hug their grandparents through plastic sleeved, you know what I mean? Like
it's awful.
The kids who were in band class isolated in little plastic bubble tent things, and basketball,
waving to relatives through the glass.
Yes,
at the nursing home.
Mm-hmm. There was skate parks were filled in with sand so kids couldn't play.
Right.
Basketball hoops were covered over with gigantic pieces of wood locked down over them so you couldn't be
Police
outside.
tape over the playground equipment.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I remember very distinctly a picture of a merry-go-round with police tape around the little things.
Okay, now there were people who, and you should be embarrassed if this was you.
Yes.
But there are people who are like, I'm a COVID compliance officer. I would take that off your resume right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody likes you.
No. What you're saying is that you are the healthcare Gestapo.
Yeah.
That's you're declaring yourself as like, yes, proudly a brown shirt for the white coat mafia.
Okay, so here's the thing is, do you think any governments learned lessons from this regarding not engaging in hyperbolic fear-mongering and not going right to tyrannical actions because, well, we don't know, we have to do something?
I think the governments that were highly successful in getting people to comply, they learned exactly the wrong lesson we wanted them to learn. They learned that if they push hard enough, people will simply acquiesce. People will, quote unquote, go along to get along, and they can recruit as many complicit compliance officer types as possible in the community to spread that message and to hurt other people, yell at other people, ostracize other people if they don't comply with the government. They learned that they could be tyrants.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. And you all in the while, you look at the comparison between St. Louis County and St. Charles County, and St. Charles County's health numbers, their dashboard numbers were better, and their economy kept going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine if you compared the health of the kids in open districts that were open, that didn't have all the mask mandates, to the kids who were studying from home and had to mask up whenever they did go out. If you compare the health of those kids, much better on the open side. It's like there were no COVID deaths among healthy children, like zero.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
It's not even an argument.
Yep. All right, 314-912-1019. All right, just ahead, violence in our politics, it's now normal. I know people are saying, well, I know, Mike, we've had some incidents, but it's not the norm. No, it is the norm.
Yeah.
Just recently, Riley Gaines experienced that just for simply trying to defend women in San Francisco, and that got her accosted on a college campus. Yes, it's about that. That's what we're going to talk about, but I think the bigger question is, how do we respond now knowing that the left quickly goes to violence to stop other people from competing with them when it comes to ideas? Let's talk about that right around 7:36 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Hey guys, it's Anna from Talkative. I am so excited to have finally found a coffee that doesn't leave me feeling jittery or overstimulated, and that's Pure Cure. Pure Cure is different from your average coffee company. They don't use artificial flavorings to mask a low-quality coffee. Instead, they have unique artisan roasts that showcase the full flavor of their coffee beans. I particularly love their signature blend, which is a take on amaretto, and you should check them out too. That's Pure Cure, PURCUR, coffee.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Kira Davis from RedState.com, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Another case of leftist violence. We really ought to be used to that by now. But here's the question I'm about to ask. I'll just tell everybody. So 314-912-1019. What do we do about it? Because this is the norm now. Yes, there's been some on the right, but almost all of it is on the left. All right. By the way, News Talk STL on demand, our podcast. Just go to newstalkstl.com or whatever podcast platform you're on. We are there. Like that conversation we had earlier with our friends from Competitive Enterprise Institute. Going to be up on podcast at 8:05. State Senator Nick Schroer going to be with us. Later on today, that's going to be up on our podcast as well. So be sure to subscribe. Por favor. Riley Gaines, the should have been collegiate champion swimmer, went to speak at a Turning Point USA event at San Francisco State University. This was Friday, right, guys? Was it Thursday or Friday?
I think it was Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, so the
Thursday night, I think
the news came. The news kind of hit big. I think
so.
Friday.
Thursday. Okay, yeah, so she goes up there with the folks over at Turning Point. They set up a venue for her to speak and talk about defending women's sports because of all the men now who want to compete in women's sports and the whole so-called trans thing. Mm-hmm. Well, there's going to be people who disagree.
Right.
And that's fine. That's great. I kind of enjoy watching some of those videos, like, for instance, of Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or some of those who are engaging with hostile questions.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's especially because those guys will allow them to ask the questions and then they'll answer, of course, and then the dumbass college kid gets all flummoxed and everything. But in this case, the increasing tactic that we're seeing is we're going to do whatever it takes to stop that person from speaking, but it's escalating even more. For instance, what was it? 3 years ago or so? 3-4 years ago, Michael Knowles was going to speak on the University of Missouri, Kansas City campus.
Yeah, I think so.
And the protesters did the heckler's veto, shouting down, and then they were throwing stuff that was an unknown substance at the time. Now, it turned out that it was harmless, but it was packaged to look like a chemical agent.
Right.
And so police were in and people were getting thrown to the ground, and that was all a violent tactic to not allow him to speak. And then just up here at, on SLU's campus, last minute, speakers kicked off. That wasn't Matt Walsh. Who was that?
That one was... I'm not sure it was any of the...
It was one of the bigger
people.
names.
It was a big name, though. Yeah.
And
I think it was a TPUSA speaker.
I think it was. It wasn't Charlie Kirk, but
No.
it was somebody in their roster.
Yep.
And so we've seen that happen there, but it didn't get violent other than the school did everything they could to not allow them to speak. Well, you go back to, for instance, in 2016, when Donald Trump is running for president at that time, there were regular violent encounters, everything from police officers and police horses being assaulted to people throwing eggs and pushing and shoving and everything that went along with that, to typical. I remember the 2008, I was at the RNC National Convention when McCain and Palin were nominated. I was
Right.
there because I was working for Bob Barr at the time. And, we had security going around places and there was some violence that happened there. And inside the big fences, yeah, it was great. You could walk around and see people and meet people and go to the CNN Grill and have a burger and everything goes along with that. But at those gates, it looked like you were at some kind of dividing line
Yeah.
between north and south or east and west, something.
Yeah. I mean, you were at the border of Sarajevo during the 90s, basically. So yeah, it was wild. And I think it's been escalating. We've seen. I remember seeing one of those compilations of all the craziness that the left had perpetuated against, particularly Trump and MAGA geared people during that election. And man, it's only gotten worse from here.
Susie did correct me on the Rumble chat box. It was Matt Walsh who was speaking on campus here. So thank you, Susie.
Yep, there you go.
Well, speaking of on campus here, Sarah Palin did one of her first gigs at Chaffetz.
Oh, yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, think of how much the temperatures have changed on campus. 15 years.
Goodness, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's wild.
My goodness.
Yeah. And now the reason I bring this up is because it's about Riley Gaines and what she's speaking about, but it's bigger than that.
Yes.
You can go back to the so-called Summer of Love. You can look at the tactics of Antifa. You can look at the tactics of Black Lives Matter. These are not tacitly endorsed by the left. They are overtly endorsed by the left. And violence is now part of the political process.
Yeah.
We're moving away from a political discussion. Now the process includes leftist violence. So, Gabe, the question is, what do we do about it? Stell, the question is, what do we do about it? How do we react? Because, for instance, the folks from Turning Point USA, in addition to Riley Gaines, the video's right there. It's very clear. They were assaulted.
Yes.
They were rushed by police into some other room, conference room, classroom, whatever it was. And they were barricaded in there for 3 hours while protesters were trying to mob around and get to her. And eventually they were saying, give us money and we'll leave.
Yes.
They were literally held for ransom by violent mobs on this.
I don't know if you guys know about it. You can't do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can.
Well, apparently.
Because nobody was arrested, there are no consequences, and the university thanked all the peaceful protesters. And by the way, in case you were hurt by Riley Gaines' words, here's where you can go to heal.
It's amazing.
So what do we do about it? How do we react from here, guys?
Still?
We have to continue pushing back because that's a Marxist MO, is to cause situations like this. And I think we can go back over the years, and I'll go back to the 60s. And back then it was flipped because the Democrats, just to show how the parties have changed, Democrats back then were pushing back and going after the government. Now now all the protesters are standing up with the government instead of protesting against the government. It's so bizarre to see the change.
You know, I think this type of stuff kind of really it's emblematic of what the ideology behind this all is. It's not that they're against violence. It's not that, you know, obviously it's not that they're against violence. It's not that they're against oppression. It's not that they're against all these things. They just want their turn at the whip. So right now they're here. They're saying, okay, we're in power now. We're an unstoppable force, and we're going to put you guys to the test here. And I think the only thing that we can do in response is just deal with the escalations through whatever legal means are available. I hear Riley is suing.
That's what she said on Twitter. Yeah,
she's suing the school, and hopefully she's suing some individuals because they're on camera doing what they're doing. And hopefully, you know, all those people kind of get taken to task. And if not that, if you can't rely on that, you have to rely on yourself. The right to self-defense is a natural right.
Right. And so somebody is going to say, let me go back to what you were just saying, Stel. Somebody's going to say, listen, she was going to San Francisco State University, rainbow capital of the world. What did you expect? Isn't this her fault? Isn't this Turning Point USA's fault?
No, it's not.
You're right. Tell me
why.
why.
I hate to give a simplistic answer, but sorry. There's absolutely every right for these folks to go onto different campuses.
Yeah.
You know, but besides,
the only thing I would disagree with there is don't say sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but besides the fact that, you know, using the "what was she wearing" defense isn't exactly a the right way to go with this. This is very much in line with the types of protests that were going on in the 60s, where people were doing reasonable things and they were being met with unreasonable responses. Here, I'm going to drink from this water fountain. I'm going to go and sit at this counter. I'm going to go and sit at this seat on the bus. Now, all of the responses to that was dogs and hoses and arrests and all this craziness from the state, all this violence from the state, which normal Americans saw as unjust and rightly, you know, set things right in the law. Well, right now, it's not necessarily legal what these leftists are doing, but it's certainly tacitly, if not explicitly, condoned by people in authority. So
by the state.
So I'm coming here to do something perfectly reasonable. Just because I expect you a-holes to act unjustly doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. Actually, I should, just to show how unreasonable you are to the rest of America.
And we're seeing women's rights stripped everywhere. And I don't understand.
It's so amazing.
Where are the women's groups standing up to fight for Title IX and to fight for keeping men out of women's sports? I don't see any pushback from them.
It's the ideological capture, and it is one of the most fascinating things to step back and look at.
I want you to think about this. Remember the whole Me Too thing, and I can't remember what the name of the comedian is, but he was canceled for exposing himself to other comics. He was
Kumar? He
no,
was
no,
in the
no.
Kumar movie?
No. It's he was.
My wife would know this. 'Cause
tall white guy, beard. Anyway, he's apparently known for backstage. He would be exposing himself to fellow comics and other ladies in the room, and he would be messing around with himself.
Got it.
Now that was regarded as sexual assault, right? Exposing himself to ladies in the room who did not consent to that exposure. If he had identified as a woman, suddenly, according to the current ideology, that's fine, because that's literally what happened to Riley Gaines in that what's his name?
He goes by Leah Thomas.
He goes by Leah Thomas now, is a fully intact male just walking around the locker room, changing, exposing himself completely to a bunch of women who also have to change, being forced to change into their swimsuits in the locker room with this person. So, and somehow that's not sexual assault.
But the point is, let's say that a student group at SLU or WashU or Lindenwood or Merrimack or, SIUE or any place like that, they want to bring in one of these firebrand conservative speakers. They have to start planning for enough security to deal with violence. That's just what is part of the equation today. And it is standard operating procedure on the left.
Yeah.
Love to know what you think. You can comment on the Rumble chat box. You can also comment.
Louis C.K.
Oh, that's right, Louis C.K. Okay, that's who it was. All right, or you can also tweet at us with your thoughts and also comment on the Facebook page as well. All right, you guys want to get better service in restaurants?
I would like it occasionally.
I'm going to tell you there was a study done.
Okay.
On how you can get better service from the get-go.
Really? And it's not just go to Chick-fil-A.
No.
Okay, that's not the advice. Okay,
it's not
all
that.
right.
You're going to always get good service there.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll tell you what it is right around 7:52 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Getter at News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Columbo and Katie.
Biden hands environmentalists a huge victory in the fight against mining and oil drilling. We'll talk about this on Monday and catch you up on all the latest news that happened over the weekend.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Columbo and Katie.
Never mind.
No, what?
What do you think about adults that use the term me likey? Because
the question is, how do I feel about adults that use the term me likey?
I don't know if I like adults that say that term.
It's even worse when a guy says it. Hey, hon, what do you think of my shirt? Me likey.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
You remember the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression?
Right.
Okay. There's also the don't judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
But people are taking first impressions and judging books by their cover, and I'm going to tell you how to leverage that into getting treated better at restaurants.
Yes.
Okay. 314-912-1019. What are ways that you have figured out how you get better service at, for instance, a restaurant or a bar or a grill or whatever, or if you're a server or have been, did you ever look at different customers and go, ooh, they're getting a priority? Because when I waited tables to get through college, I did. I'll tell you right now, I picked and choose who got the best service,
right? Who
got the very, very bare minimum. By the way, if you haven't already liked our Facebook page, go do it and look at our Easter posts.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Okay, so Tony and Gabe go to the same church, right?
Yes.
And Gabe, let's be honest, man, as I learned a new phrase this weekend, according to my wife's kids, you have some drip.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Which for those of us who are a little bit older, that means he was dressed very well.
Dressed very well. Yes.
You had some drip.
I had some drip. Yeah. Yeah.
Tony Columbo did not have drip.
he had the opposite of drip. But yes, so there was a bit of a comparison between the two of us. It's like, this is how we do Easter here at my church. So you can do one or the other extreme.
Yes. And so go to News Talk STL on Facebook, and you can can see the side-by-side comparison.
It's
which
fun.
is awesome.
Now, of course, on Easter, I was dressed completely according to my wife's preferences.
Well, you guys matched.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was. You can actually see her in the background of Tony's picture. She's up on the stage. She's in the purple dress with the purple hat, and I have a purple tie. So yes, she is the one who drips me out.
You're looking sharp there, man.
Thank you, sir.
I'm telling
Thank
you.
you, sir.
So
It's
check
all
that
on
out.
her.
You definitely want to see it. Seriously, go check it out on Facebook on our page. Okay, let's see here. Where? The University of Missouri did a survey of servers, waiters, waitresses, waitstaff at some of various kinds of restaurants. What do you think the most important thing in their eyes as to who gets better service when they spot like the next table they're assigned? Because I've worked in restaurants. I mean, when I was in college, I waited tables to get through college. And of course, the manager's like, you treat everybody the same. And all of us are going, no, you don't. Have you guys ever waited tables?
I haven't. But,
Okay,
but
Stell,
Janet has.
did you?
Yeah, I grew up in the restaurant business.
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's right.
As a
That's
kid.
right. Yeah.
Do you treat every table the same?
I have to say no, because I can think of numerous times when families would come in. If there were little kids,
Oh boy.
you would give them a different table in a different spot.
Yep.
And you would try to make sure that everybody's handled fairly, but boy, it would be tough if you had kids screaming at a table.
I heard when it comes to Sunday afternoons, if you see people dressed up for church come in, you're not going to get tipped well.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yep.
So-
Go to any Denny's, and
Yes.
those folks will tell you.
Yeah, so you give them the bare minimum.
Yes. When I was in college, I worked at a Red Lobster restaurant, which is funny because I'm allergic to seafood. we called Sunday Hat Day.
Oh yes. Mhm.
And
church lady church hat.
The more hat day-ish, church lady-ish, straight. First of all, we sold more booze on Sundays than we did on Saturday nights.
Kind of amazing.
And almost every time it was, I normally don't do this, but, and it was like they'd say that every Sunday.
Liar.
But we knew we weren't getting tipped squat. I finally got to where I could just do Friday night and Saturday and then be done with it, and I wouldn't work Sundays anymore because it wasn't worth it because the
Right.
church people didn't tip
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
But what do you think, other than that, what do you think tells a server that I'm going to give that person the benefit of the doubt and they're getting really good service right off the bat?
I don't know.
Take out the Sunday.
Now, whatever Janet does to schmooze the servers, we usually get pretty good service because she knows, having been in. But I don't know. I just try to be nice to everybody.
What do you think?
Kathy usually tries to be very friendly with the folks up front who are seating people.
Oh yeah.
But I think one of the other issues may be the way folks are dressed.
That's it.
That's it?
The survey by the University of Missouri, and I don't know why they're spending University of Missouri funding to survey waiters and waitresses, but they did.
It's a state school, that's all.
Yeah. The survey says that they look at how you are dressed and how you present yourself. The better you're dressed, the better you present yourself, the more likely you're going to get better service right off the bat, even at the expense of somebody else if they're dressed real grubby.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that, especially if we're talking like a weekday, right?
Yep.
It's a weekday.
Yep.
You come in, you got either a shirt and tie or something, or
you just
a nice a nice polo.
You
or
just
something.
put yourself together well.
I do. Now that I think about it, because I'm usually not really conscious of these things because I don't like to pay attention to people. I don't like people. But when I go out for in the middle of the day at lunch when I'm coming out of the office and I'm dressed nice, I get great service.
And when I waited tables, I did that. I mean, and there are some people you walk in and is it I don't know, discrimination? Is it being judgmental? Is it whatever? Is it unfair? Maybe, but I'm there to make money.
So your drip earns the tips.
Yeah. Good drip, good tip.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, State Senator Nick Schroer just ahead right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
News, analysis, opinion.
Indicting a former president of the United States.
The Democrats tried to impeach him before he ever even took office over Russian collusion.
This is News Talk STL.
Democrats risk a backlash from this.
Don't bring a case like this against a former president on a petty allegation.
Demonstrators battling with law enforcement officers as they attempted to breach the building.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Biden doesn't care, and the Democrats really don't care either.
And NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Zero Res. Get the jump on spring cleaning just like we did and get Zero Res out to your home now. Zero Res can clean basically every surface in your home, and since April is National Pet Month, it's important to remember that they don't use any harsh chemicals, so their services are safe for pets. Book now and mention the Columbo special to get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $119, plus they'll throw in a free hallway and take $75 off an air duct cleaning. Just call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
I'm Rich Thomason. In the air and on the sea, Communist China's military making a strong showing off the coast of Taiwan. It's the third and apparently the final day of the current round of saber rattling by Beijing. Today's drills meant to simulate a sealing off of the island from the rest of the world.
The Chinese military had earlier announced combat readiness patrols as a warning to Taiwan. The actions follow President Tsai Ing-wen's trip to America, with the most sensitive event being a meeting with the House Speaker. China has responded with sanctions against those associated with her trip and intensifying military activity near the island. Taiwan's defense ministry says 70 Chinese planes were detected from Sunday to early Monday, while another 59 flights of bombers and fighter jets were detected later. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman, Texas Republican Mike McCall, says the U.S. can do more to bolster Taiwan's military. He notes that some of the advanced weapons systems authorized by Congress still have not reached the island democracy.
That will provide deterrence to Chairman Xi to think twice about an invasion. And secondly, is the combat training that is occurring on the island. We need to ramp that up to a larger scale so they can provide that projection of strength and deterrence. They're not where they need to be right now.
McCall on NBC's Meet the Press. He says he will run again. Democrat U.S. Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania announcing today that he will seek another term. Casey, who is about to turn 63, is the longest-serving Democrat U.S. Senator in Pennsylvania history. He's also a key ally of President Biden. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures down 131 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt, I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you call Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me, and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
The accelerated violence that is...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by The Dental Link. Call Dr. Alan Link today, 314-794-6464, to schedule your free consultation. Offices in Baldwin and Melville, 314-794-6464.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Hi, Jen Wallner here. As a former foster child myself, I have always been an advocate for foster children in our community. Angels Arms is an amazing organization that provides a stable, nurturing, and loving family environment for these children. They ensure these children have not only the childhood they deserve, but the resources needed to become successful, thriving adults. I truly believe that this organization is transforming lives, and I could not be more proud to be a small part of that accomplishment. For more information or to get involved, visit angelsarms.org.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. Call Anton's at 314-338-3941 or visit them at antonshvac.com. Mike Ferguson.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
We have a hope.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
What do you call a genius in President Biden's Homeland Security Department? A visitor.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
I guess if there's a theme for the Missouri legislature at this point, it's what makes it to the finish line. It's all about the finish line. Now, to some degree, it's like that every single year, but it just seems to me that's what we should keep in mind when we're looking at these key issues we want to see done in Jefferson City, because there is some really good stuff in the works, and now it's not about will you vote on it, will you approve it, will you support it. It's what is actually going to get through the political obstacle course and actually get across the finish line in these political gamesmanship ways. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Stel Ponticus here as well, joined now by Missouri State Senator Nick Schroer. Of course, you can hear him every weekend right here with Stand and Fight on News Talk STL. Nick, man, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you being on today. Before I get to that and the Missouri-specific stuff, we were just talking a little bit ago about the whole Riley Gaines thing at, San Francisco State University, and I know she was on your show recently. And it seems that we've got a situation where the left has as a standard operating procedure the use of violence or the threat of violence in dealing with anybody who disagrees with them and comes onto a campus or comes to their town, whether it's on campus or not. How do we respond to that? What do we do about it, knowing that this is their MO?
Well, I think, this is right out of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, that, you're going to intimidate the other side and make sure that your very vocal, very small minority is the one that seems to be the prevailing view of the majority. What we need to do is stand up, just like Riley Gaines has been doing, and speaking for our morals, for our beliefs, for the silent majority. What that is going to do when we have people like Riley Gaines, like myself, like Mike Ferguson, like Vic Porcelli, when we have these people standing up, speaking common sense that we are hearing at the kitchen table, in garages when we're drinking beers, on a Saturday night, when we hear mainstream, that's going to empower us to stand up, and the silent majority will prevail once again. So I think, Riley Gaines is taking the heat right now from these militant leftists that are hiding behind the trans flag now, that were hiding behind the Antifa flag previously. We need to, do exactly what she's doing. Go into the lion's den, speak the truth, speak up for common sense, and if they want to go crazy, let them be the crazy ones. Let's stand our ground and not be the ones that are going to be on CNN, MSNBC, throwing the first punch.
So, in other words, stand and fight?
Absolutely, which you hear every Sunday night, 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL.
Boy, that was nifty. That was nice.
Oh, man. Okay, let's talk about you're heading back to Jeff City today. And tell me if you disagree with my grandiose setup to the conversation here, Nick. And that is, it's not as much about the conservative and the free market bills that are out there and have support. It doesn't sound to me like it's a matter of getting the numbers for the support. It's a matter of getting it from here across the finish line, across that obstacle course, like I said, of politics, and frankly, politics on the Republican side, to get some of the best things actually done. It shouldn't be that way, but where does that entire process stand right now when it comes to some of these key conservative issues?
Well, I think you're 100% on your evaluation, what's going to make it to the finish line. And I think, again, empowering the leadership in both chambers. In the Senate, we have the filibuster, something that has killed many bills in the past, but typically, when the filibuster happens, the previous leadership would just say, "Okay, we're going to go home for the night. This has no path to a resolution." But we saw with the SAFE Act, the Save Adolescents from Experimentation, the Save Women's Sports Act, right before we went on the spring break. That's what we did. We said, all right, I guess we're going to gavel out. We're going to go back home because this has no opportunity to pass. But when we came back, there was pressure from the conservatives saying, look, if the Democrats want to filibuster this, let them stand out there on the floor and have a plan. And, they just obviously worked and finally tired themselves out to the point that they knew. Some of the Democrats knew what they were standing for, that minor children can chop off certain parts of their body. Minor children can put puberty blockers into their own body, that was so egregious. Then they came to the table after, I think, 13 hours of a filibuster, and we finally passed those two bills, something that had never been done in the past 6, 7, 8 years. So I think ultimately we're going to have leadership that is going to go to the mat and say, look, the personal property tax cuts, the sports betting issue, which I dealt with just this past week. There's so many issues that are out there, the school choice issues, Parents' Bill of Rights. These are things that we are going to need to stand and fight. It's a recurring theme here with me.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately that's what we're going to need to do. The Democrats are going to try to kick and scream, whether it's about saving the minor children from these experimentations, saving people in the city of St. Louis by taking back control of the city police, having a special prosecutor come in because Kim Gardner is not doing her job. These are things that the Democrats are going to filibuster, but we're going to have to negotiate. We're going to have to stand our ground and say, look, this is what is important to our state. This is going to move us forward. And if we don't take a vote on this stuff, then you guys are going to have to stand out there for, 2 weeks and filibuster.
Did the Republican caucus stand its ground on the SAFE Act? Because Idaho, they passed a ban on it, but it's a felony if you mutilate a child. Here, maybe if somebody sues and the whole bill sunsets in 4 years. I've had a couple debates with some of our friends, with some of the good guys in the legislature who said, well, it's the best we could do. And Nick, is it really the best we can do?
Well, I think that there's two different avenues right now. There's that piece that ultimately, when you get into the logistics of, okay, if we were going to use the nuclear option of shutting down the filibuster, do we do it on a Senate bill where it has to get done several times after perfecting the bill, or do we do it on a House version where if you go the nuclear option, that's all you have to do is one time, let's take the vote and then move on. So I know that there is a piece moving through the Missouri House that hopefully is going to be a total ban, puts the criminal penalties in there. So that will be plan A, and plan B will be the one with the sunset. Now, the sunset really doesn't concern me as much as it does to many people on the surface, because if we look back at the residency requirement repeal for the police in the city of St. Louis, the police of Kansas City, after much negotiation, after much debate, and basically saying, look, we're going to take a vote on this, or the Democrats are going to have to filibuster, that's what they wanted. So I think that this is a move that the Democrats have been doing the past couple of years of putting a sunset in there, and quietly within the next year or 2 years, mind you, a lot of these same players, including myself and others, we're going to be there for the next 4 years. So that's going to be something we are going to go to the mat and ensure that sunset, if it gets to the governor's desk, is going to be repealed. But it's a move from the left right now, and they have nothing else to do when there's nothing else other than filibustering. They want to get something. They want to get their, pound of flesh. So they put in a sunset. Ultimately, those things come out. But yeah, I think the bill could have been much stronger. But as we said today, there's still, as we saw from Jamie Reed in the affidavit, there's still these experiments going on. There's still minors being harmed. So we need to do something, whether it's the Senate's version, which I think is a very strong version of this. Yes, it doesn't have the ultimate portion where the sunset is out of it yet, or if it's the House version that's going to come over, that's hopefully going to be a lot stronger. We need to do something. This is a common sense approach that should have been done years ago.
Nick, you've been at the tip of the spear to help parents voice their concerns for their kids, to really stand up against school administrations that are taking advantage of their relationship with teachers unions, and you've done such a great job in that area. But now that the school year is quickly coming to a close, the academic school year, are you concerned that maybe we're going to see a lull here during the summer, and what can we do to keep the pressure on to help kids?
Well, I'm always concerned when it comes to, the education and upbringing of our kids, especially mine. But no, I think when we look at, especially St. Charles County has gone from a nightmare dealing with woke school boards and woke superintendents to now you look at these past elections from 2020, 2022, now, or 2021, whenever that was, and now 2023, the school board elections, and Francis Howell, I think, now has a conservative majority. Fort Zumwalt is adding members. Wentzville School District has a conservative majority. So I think there's going to be a lot of turning over of the stones to see where the bugs are scattering and figure out, what issues need to be addressed now that we have the numbers to address it locally. Now, Rockwood and other areas in St. Louis County, we need to spread the love. We need to spread that conservative message to stand up for parents. But hopefully we can get this bill, the Parents' Bill of Rights, across the finish line, which includes a transparency portal. It mandates that these school districts have to put online where the money is going, so you don't have to have Elliot Davis or whoever it is, the you paid for it guy coming in, or the state auditor trying to figure out where is your money going after we pass these massive tax increases on the ballot. What curriculum is being taught to our kids? That's going to be in a transparency portal. So yeah, even though the school year is coming to an end, there are a lot of good changes, especially if we can get this bill across the finish line dealing with the Parents' Bill of Rights. There's going to be some good changes coming to the next school years here in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, and there was in the Rockwood School District, the conservatives came really, really close back a couple weeks ago. I'm sure you know that voice, but that's State Senator Nick Schroer. Nick, I'm a little heavy on the segment, but I want to follow up on the sports betting question. I know that the casinos are not happy with a bunch of the video gaming machines, but everybody seems to agree on the sports betting aspect of this. Where is that debate right now as far as bringing this above board and putting it into legal status in Missouri?
Well, after hours of debate, this is something that was going to hit a gridlock in the state of Missouri, especially in St. Charles County. We have these video lottery terminals everywhere, gas stations, restaurants, fraternal organizations, bars. So there are a lot of property owners that are making money off of this right now. We need to ensure that there's some consumer protections in place and that the legislature is not going to ban something that's been here for a long time. So that's where the gridlock happened. We finally took a vote to legalize or regulate the video lottery terminals that are out there now, to legalize sports betting, and the hordes of casino lobbyists, which there were a ton. There was one picture in the St. Louis Business Journal where I think the entire picture was just lobbyists after lobbyists for the casinos. They got to a bunch of legislators that said that they were going to vote in favor of a compromise, but then flipped at the last minute. So I think we're still hitting a stalemate. We're going to continue to try to work for the freedom of these individuals to use their money in whatever way they want to. If they want to go out there and sports bet, I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to put a nickel in a video lottery terminal. But I think if property owners are going to put that on their place of business and make some money off of it, we should at least have them at the table and not these third-party lobbyists.
All right. People want to follow what you're doing through the week. I know it's an important week this week. What's the best way to stay in touch?
Yeah, go to nickschroer.com. It'll link you up to all of my social medias, or tune in every Sunday night here, News Talk STL, standing and fighting. If you miss it on 8 p.m. on Sunday nights, search it anywhere podcasts are available.
All right, Nick, good to talk to you again. Thanks again, man.
God bless you, boys. Have a good week.
He's Nick's doing one of the good guys right there, fighting the fight. All right, 314-912-1019. Got your news roundup coming your way here in just a moment. And then at 8:35, what happens when another survey or study comes out on this whole transitioning thing and it doesn't fit the narrative? You heard about that in the headlines, right, Stell?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. Doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative.
Doesn't fit the narrative.
Most people probably have not heard it, though.
Okay.
Because they don't follow the conservative media like we do. So we're going to talk to Tim Pierce from the Daily Wire at 8:35 right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Monday is, of course, Easter Monday. We'll be back in the saddle with former U.S. Senator Jim Talon at 425 and Susie Moore side by side with Red State.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Fox News commentary.
Kamala Harris won't do her job as czar of all things, but when she saw the chance to jump on the race card, she jumped on the plane and came to Nashville. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Harris paid Nashville, Tennessee a visit over the weekend, not to meet the families of the 6 Christians murdered by the trans, not to applaud the brave officers of the Nashville Police Department, but to meet 2 Democrats who led an insurrection at the Capitol and perpetuate a bald-faced lie. Tennessee Republicans showed a couple of loudmouth insurrection leaders what it's like to be in the legislative minority here in Tennessee. The media and VP Harris will tell you Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled because they're black and spoke out against gun violence, and that would be a lie. No, these 2 Democrats were expelled because they led a disorderly, aggressive, and militant protest at the Capitol 2 weeks ago. Welcome to the red state of Tennessee, where elections have consequences. If Democrats controlled the legislature, they would have done the same thing times 5, and we all know it. Well, not here in Tennessee. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, Bill O'Reilly here, and you can hear my no-spin commentary right here at 6:45 this evening. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Okay, a few of the headlines right now in St. Louis. Are we getting more hints about the 2024 race for president? Some Republicans are racking up the travel miles right now in a big way.
I think they have an itinerary that they're following.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
Certain states seem to be showing up.
Very popular. Very popular. The Metro is cutting back a key service. I'll tell you why here in just a minute or so. And Jordan Walker, man, he is off to a hot start this season. Rest of the Cardinals, not so much. Not so much. But I still think, I'm calling it now, they're winning the division. I'm saying it right now.
Well, the Brewers might have something to say about that.
They
but
will complain
okay.
about it. But I say the Cardinals win the division. I still think that's going to happen, assuming we actually start pitching. All right, 8:23 right now. Did I say that out loud? I didn't
hear anything.
No, I didn't. Okay. I'm Mike Ferguson. That's Estelle Ponticus. Okay. So when it comes to the debacle that was the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and I'm following up here because, we had a really good conversation with Paul Kurtman on Friday about this former Marine, obviously one of our hosts here, and you can hear that conversation on the News Talk STL podcast. He was really, really fired up because the Biden administration, Department of State and the Pentagon put out a report saying, you know what, the reason that withdrawal was so bad and that 13 Americans got killed, it was all Donald Trump's fault. Yeah. Biden administration placing the blame on the Trump administration regarding that withdrawal. Congressman Mike Gallagher, he's a Republican from Wisconsin, was on Sean Duffy's Fox Sunday with Sean Duffy on Fox Sunday Morning's Futures to talk about that.
It was the definition of chaos. It was dishonorable. It was shameful. It was humiliating. And Kirby, as a military officer, should know better. We're talking about 13 Americans dead who didn't need to die, Sean. Hundreds of Americans that we abandoned behind enemy lines. And for them to minimize this, for them to try and just dump this report on a Thursday night, hoping nobody would notice. And then if you read the contents of the report, it's quite literally insane, Sean, trying to gaslight the American people.
Yeah, shameful is a good way to put it.
And not just any Thursday night, but Thursday night before Easter weekend.
Yep.
So they knew Friday was going to be a slow day news-wise, plus the whole weekend. So it would just be ignored.
That's an excellent point. That's exactly what happened. So I'm glad that the Biden administration is still getting called out about that because mistakes are going to be made. War is a chaotic situation, as we know. But when we look back and even the leftist, typical state media, the leftist typical legacy media, even they were quickly going, whoa, that was a cluster. That was bad decision after bad decision, and even they couldn't hide it. And so when they say it wasn't our fault, those are previous administrations, the administration should be called out on it, not because they're liberal and we're not, but because that is absolutely shameful. Congressman Gallagher is absolutely right about that. Okay, other politics. All right, he's been to Iowa already. Now Florida Governor Ron DeSantis makes a stop in New Hampshire. DeSantis headlined the state's annual GOP dinner on Friday, and he's speaking in Ohio this week and South Carolina next week. And so, in other words, he's making appearances in some key early states. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott also scheduled to appear in both Iowa and New Hampshire this week. That's that pattern we were just talking about a little bit ago, still.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see that these states are just lining up perfectly for them. And it's as though they have these itineraries all planned out. Well, they probably do.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that you've always mentioned here over the last couple of weeks, they've got books to push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they don't, given the whole thing around Donald Trump and the criminal charges against him and possibly other ones coming in other states, that's going to dominate the headlines. And so a DeSantis appearance under the guise of a book tour or a Tim Scott appearance under the guise of a book tour or them just simply speaking in their official capacities, that's good enough to draw a big crowd and create more of a fan base or more of an excitement. I don't think there's any pressure on them to declare anytime soon if they're actually officially formally running for president.
No, not at all. I would agree.
Yeah, I think they get the same effect and the same benefit by simply talking about what's in their books.
So I'm kind of wondering, what are Pence and Pompeo and those guys doing? Are they just sitting around in their living rooms?
Yeah, Pence has a book out as well.
Yeah.
He has a new one. I don't know if Mike Pompeo does, but Mike Pence has a new one out. Mike Pence is being subpoenaed and called to testify at more stuff related to January 6th. And so his attorneys were fighting that. They were fighting some of it, and other parts of it they're like, yeah, that's fine, we can talk about that. But he's trying to keep his executive privilege in place. So Mike Pence is in a really weird spot right now with that. So I don't think with him, I also don't think there's any pressure for him to announce if he's running. I like Mike Pence. I don't think he would be a top 5 contender at this point for the nomination. I just don't see it. But I'm probably gonna. I haven't bought his book yet, but I probably will and give book reports on that like everything else. But yeah, I think he's the same. He's in the same situation, except he could still get pulled into some of the news of the past as well, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy was on Fox News Live over the weekend to talk about not just the Trump factor, but where does the nomination go from here?
I think that Donald Trump did this country a great service by exposing a lot of the problems and the administrative rot of the corrupt federal government. But we're only going to go so far with vengeance and with grievance. And what I'm doing is I'm going to take that agenda further than Trump ever did by doing it based on a moral foundation.
Okay, and by the way, in case anybody forgot, Nikki Haley's still running too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's been drowned out completely by all the news.
She doesn't seem to be getting much traction from my perspective, and I'm not sure what she needs to do to get her act in gear, but we're not hearing much from her.
Yeah, and she's not running a bad campaign, but what you just said is correct, I think. She's just not gaining the traction that she really needs.
Yeah.
I likened it a little bit earlier to trying to run uphill right after a mudslide. You know, you can have the best plan in place, but it's going to be hard given the fact that Donald Trump's headlines are sucking the air out of the room. I mean, she's not running a bad campaign. This just may be the year that she's not going to get past the other variables. I don't know. Maybe things could change in 6 months.
And I don't mean to be dogging on her, but I'm not seeing much of a campaign at all. I'm not seeing her really get out there really doing anything.
She's not getting huge turnouts, and she's not getting the media hits that normally you would have somebody who's running. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is getting more media.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We'll see what happens over the summer season. That's going to be interesting. Okay, the Metro here in St. Louis, the Metro's call ride service scaled back as of today, starting today. Metro officials say they're short about 80 drivers, so they're going back to the actual service area limits. So a call ride service is only supposed to be available if you are within 3/4 of a mile from a bus or a Metrolink route. They've been providing service beyond that for years, but because of that driver shortage, they've announced that they're just going to go to 3/4 of a mile from there. Some activists, though, have filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice because of the change. And this affects mostly folks who are disabled and also folks who are elderly as well and just aren't as mobile. So it's going to affect a number of people, but they just don't have the drivers, they say, to meet the need right now.
Yeah, Kathy and I have some friends who utilize it, and they live in areas where, as you said, this service has been provided for the past few years. I have no idea if, as of now, that service is gone for them. I hope that they can continue it. I have a funny feeling that that it won't continue for them.
At some point, the manpower and the numbers just don't add up, and you just can't do it. So I have a feeling this is going to be something you're going to see in the local headlines a little bit farther along if the Department of Justice actually responds to it. And I think the activists going to the Department of Justice, absolutely the wrong venue. This is not a Department of Justice issue. This is an economic and manpower issue. That's just all there is to it.
And totally local.
Absolutely local. This is not, I mean, if you don't get what you want from government, you call the feds. Come on, we got to get out of that mindset.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, don't do that. All right, it is fair to say the Cardinals are off to a slow start to the season. I think we can admit that at this point, right?
I think so, except for one guy, yes.
Yeah, I hate to say that, but after losing to the Brewers on Sunday, the Redbirds are now 3-6. One bright spot, though, is Jordan Walker has gotten a hit in all 9 games so far this season. So the first 9 games of his career, that ties a Cardinals record as well. St. Louis is on the road again tonight. They play the Rockies at 7:40.
Well, it ties another record that folks may not know about, Ted Williams.
Yeah.
You know, that one to me is even more impressive.
Yeah.
That he's tied Ted Williams' record as a rookie.
And for those who are under the age of 21 when they give him, I mean, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And so he's off to a phenomenal start. The Blues are off until Thursday. They've got 2 games left. The Dallas Stars are here, and then they go to Dallas. So Thursday is the last game of the year at Enterprise Center for the St. Louis Blues. And tickets I saw right now for that, I saw some of those ticket service websites, you can get them for $13 as of this morning. I don't know what it is right now. Those fluctuate up and down. But right now I saw them at $13 a little bit ago. All right, 314-912-1019. What happens when a new study, a new survey runs counter to the narrative about the so-called transitioning thing? Daily Wire had an interesting article covering just that. We're going to talk to the writer Tim Pierce from the Daily Wire about that right around 8:36 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Beautiful weather on tap today after a cool start under mainly fair skies. The high temperature 72 degrees and partly cloudy with light winds. Should be a real beauty. And what a warm up this week. Overnight lows near 50 tonight. Upper 70s tomorrow, near 80 on Wednesday and Thursday this week, and staying dry. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey, Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 101.9, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home.
If you go by my house here in about 25 to 35 minutes or so, you know what you're going to see out in front of it? You are going to see an Anton's Plumbing and HVAC truck in front of my house in Richmond Heights. And that is because they are wrapping up some of the phenomenal plumbing work they're doing. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. And you may say, wait a minute, Anton's, they do heating and cooling. Yep, they put in the central air system in our house, and man, do I love that. Matter of fact, over the weekend, it was cold. It was a little bit warm upstairs in our house. But you know what? The temperature stayed perfectly stable throughout the entire weekend. We didn't even notice it because it was so whisper quiet. I love this HVAC system they put in our house. So do what I did. Call my friends at Anton's at 314-338-3941. Let them take a look at your air conditioning and your heating needs. Right now will be the air conditioning needs for the spring and the summer. Nobody's going to do a better job. They are so easy to work with, so affordable. They did such a fantastic job and amazing service after they install that. And by the way, even if you don't think you need an entire HVAC system, we needed to get rid of those stupid window unit air conditioners. Those things are long gone. Now we have that whisper quiet HVAC central air system. But if you just need to make sure that your system is up and running and it's going to make it through this St. Louis summer that's on the way, hey, give them a call. Once again, 314-338-3941. They'll come out and they will do a check and a tune-up of your air conditioning system, $79. Call them now while they aren't in the busy season so they can get out there quick and make sure that you're all set for the summer. And a lot of people don't realize that Anton's also does plumbing. That's who I trust. That's who did the entire plumbing project, not just on our renovation, but we had 90-year-old plumbing in our house, and they came in and they have replaced the entire thing, the stack and all, and they kept us updated the whole time. We knew exactly what was happening, and they took care of every aspect of this with just the best customer service I think I've ever experienced. So give them a call, 314-338-3941. Once again, 314-338-3941, or you can learn more at antonshvac.com.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
Only you can prevent wildfires.
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The news and talk
Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 34 counts.
that matters to St. Louis.
These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
When it comes to one of the most volatile debates in our society and our culture today, one of the problems, as I see it, in addition to the ethics and the morals, is the assertion of facts that aren't actually facts. And we're seeing that by the medical establishment, by media, and by policy advocates all over the country. So what happens when a new updated study challenges all of those facts? Do you see that in the headlines? No, you generally don't. You're probably about to hear it for the first time right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. I came across an article on the Daily Wire, and it's entitled simply, Parents Report Child's Mental Health Deteriorated Considerably After Transitioning, according to a study. And it was written by Tim Pierce, who joins me right now. And Tim, thanks for being on the program. And I want to get into the specifics of what the study found in just a second. But let me start with just kind of the assumption that we hear in typical media and that we hear among a bunch of politicians and policymakers that one of the arguments they make for encouraging or pushing even children into so-called transitioning is their mental health is at stake. If they don't do this, if you don't allow it, if you don't affirm them, then they're at higher risk for suicide or self-harm or ostracization or anything like that. What is it that's being claimed and challenged here?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. That's part of the big issue surrounding this is that there's two competing philosophies and medical treatment here. There's one camp that says in this debate in particular, there's one camp that says this is gender dysphoria. It's a mental illness. It needs to be treated. People need to be worked with in therapy. And in the most extreme cases, maybe some of the gender transitioning stuff, the gender treatment stuff, that may help in some extreme cases, but those are very narrow cases. Most people grow out of this. And then there's the other camp where we need affirmative care. So if a child comes to you and says, I feel like I am uncomfortable in the body that I'm born with. I feel like I am somebody else than what my biology, but something else than what I look like. Then you need to encourage those feelings and send that child down a pathway to where they feel validated. Their feelings about themselves are validated.
And the study that you're writing about, this is not from an activist group. This is actually from a major university, right?
The person who did the study is he's from Northwestern University. He's a professor. He took data given to him by a group that is very under the radar. This is basically, it's like a support group. They don't advertise. They basically take stories from parents or other guardians of children who identify as transgender, and they compile them and give them a group to say that it's a place for them to say, come talk to us. There are other people like you, because there's so much toxicity around this issue, and because the transgender movement and gender ideology is so pervasive, and the people involved in it can get really nasty. And so nobody actually knows. The people associated with this group don't put any of their information out there. They vet the people that query them and come to them and say, hey, my kid is going through this. I've seen these doctors, these therapists, and they keep pushing me to do this, but I'm uncomfortable with it. And they're basically there to say, it's okay. We were too. We were in that same position. And so they took data from that polling sample, that sample of people who talked to them, and then they gave it to the university professor to analyze.
All right. And what did that find, and how does that stack up to some of the claims that are being made to the contrary?
So the polling sample is interesting because there is some selection bias here, because it's parents who are very skeptical of what has happened to their child, but in most cases these are parents of children who have at least socially transitioned. So they started dressing the opposite gender from which they are biologically. Um, uh, so the data isn't like you can't necessarily take this data and apply it to, well, this is every single scenario. But what you can do is say something like, when the Washington Post reported last month, the headline, "Most trans adults say transitioning made them more satisfied with their lives." Obviously, there's some sort of agenda here. You're trying to push that this, again, the affirmative care model, saying that affirmative care is the future, that it does benefit these kids. You could take this data set and say, maybe not, because a lot of the parents say that their mental health is actually worse off. And if you dig into the statistics, even in the Washington Post article, you look at the lives of the people that they sampled, who the transgender people say that they feel better mentally, but they're in an entire case, like in an entire cast of people that on mental health, depression, anxiety, they're all measuring significantly lower than people who live out their biological gender. Okay, what they term as cis people. Okay, cis males, cis women, it's just men and women. The trans people are all measuring significantly lower in basically every category, except to say that they feel like they're more affirmed living out their true identity.
So they feel more affirmed, but they're also reporting higher levels of mental health challenges. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay. We're visiting with Tim Pierce from the Daily Wire. The article is called Parents Report Child's Mental Health Deteriorated Considerably After Transitioning, according to a study. What are the age groups of these parents? I mean, what do we know about the range that the data is looking at?
So this data group is parents, mostly parents. Some were guardians, some were grandparents, but it's mostly parents of children or young adults age 11 to 21. So this is mostly minors. The sample came from mostly white, mostly better off families. They tended to lean more progressive in their values. And a majority of these kids had mental health issues before they came out as transgender. Okay, so there are a lot of markers here for what this professor who did this study and what this group calls is rapid onset gender dysphoria, which is basically, it's a social contagion is what they think. There are a lot of markers here that they say this isn't really true gender dysphoria. This is more of a social contagion, because real gender dysphoria, typically, historically, before the past decade, it was actually mostly a male phenomenon, and it affected like 0.01% of the population, and 70% of those people affected grew out of it. This is a mostly female phenomenon, mostly girls affected by this. And it was the same thing with like anemia, bulimia, social contagion. These girls get together, they get online, they're all uncomfortable with their bodies because puberty makes you uncomfortable with your body. And so they come up with this excuse to justify the way they're feeling about themselves, which is, I must be transgender. I'm uncomfortable in my body because I must be transgender. And once one person in the group does that, then you'll see this in repeated instances throughout the group. And so this was part of the study too, that when these kids came out as transgender, most of them had 2 or 3 friends. I think the average was like 2.4 in the study, 2.4 friends in their friend group who also came out as transgender. And so you see these sort of markers for social contagion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Tim, and about the last minute or so we've got left, what is it we should do with this information and this study that is now in the mix in the conversation?
Well, I can't. I don't want to tell people how to raise their kids, but they have to know that if you go to a therapist, if you go to a psychiatrist or a doctor for some sort of mental health issue, you have to be very conscientious about who you take them to. If there's somebody who believes in affirmative care, if there's somebody who's going to tell the child, hey, whatever you're feeling, you're validated, and we should do something more for that. You go down that route, the hormone therapy, and then especially once you get to the cross-sex hormones, hormone therapy will do some damage to your child. There's bone loss, bone density loss is a problem. You put off puberty, and that has effects on their development. But once you get to the cross-sex hormones, then you have a really high likelihood of being infertile as your child grows up. That is a really a bridge you can't come back from. And so when you go to, if your child is suffering some sort of mental health crisis, mental health problem, you want to be really careful about who you take them to.
All right. Tim Pierce from the Daily Wire. Find his work at dailywire.com. Tim, thanks so much for the information. I encourage people to go check out your article.
Thanks for bringing me on, Mike.
Yeah, and I encourage you to go ahead and check out that article. Once again, I know I've already said the title, but parents report child's mental health deteriorated considerably after transitioning, according to a study at dailywire.com. All right, let's talk about it. 314-912-1019. Good information right there, because when you hear about the studies prove gender-affirming care is necessary, no, they don't. That's just activism. So if you got any thoughts on it, let me know. 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL.
Is the path to business prosperity to find your best clients?
Bongino.
In other words, people with big voices like News Talk STL, and then to kick them off the platform and attack them for barely stating an opinion?
Weekdays at 11.
Do you think that's an effective business model?
On News Talk STL.
On Sunday, April 16th, the Cardinals host the Pirates, and that day, 25,000 fans aged 16 and older will take home a mystery nickname jersey, courtesy of Maryville University. Throughout the seasons, players with unique nicknames have left their mark, like me, the Mad Hungarian. And the Cardinals will honor some of these players with this fun mystery jersey giveaway. That's Sunday, April 16th. Get your tickets at cardinals.com.
This is Paul Goldschmidt. See you at the ballpark.
Sunday, April 16th is Donate Life Day at the ballpark, presented by Mid-America Transplant. That day, the Cardinals host the Pirates, and fans who purchase a special themed ticket will receive an exclusive Cardinals cap supporting organ and tissue donation. A portion of each ticket will be donated back to support Mid-America Transplant. That's Sunday, April 16th, Donate Life Day at the ballpark. For more information or to purchase tickets, visit cardinals.com/theme.
This is Tyler O'Neill. Thank you for being the best fans in baseball.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Dr. Robert Malone.
In my attempt to make sense out of this whole crazy, messed up, I can come up with a lot of words for messed up.
Don't you cuss on this here radio.
CNN is my favorite.
Don't you cuss on this here radio.
Yeah, be really careful.
Vic Borselli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning brought to you by Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. Call Anton's at 314-338-3941 or visit them at antonshvac.com.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
You're going to see some breaking news throughout the day in Louisville, Kentucky right now. Looks like there's what's being described as a mass casualty event, shooting. It's in the downtown Louisville area, and it's in the old National Bank building, which is downtown and not far from Slugger Field. Baseball field that I guess I think at least at one point it was sponsored by Louisville Slugger, the company. But we don't know how many people have been hurt. We know that there have been several ambulances go from the scene, but the shooting happened inside a bank building in downtown Louisville. And so you are going to be hearing headlines about that through the rest of the day. That's all the information that we have right now. In this case, I know nothing else about that. So, we'll see what happens with it. Scary situation. Really.
I've been to Louisville a few times, but
sure.
I can't picture exactly where this bank is located.
Yeah,
but I do know where that baseball field is.
Right, so it's not too far from there.
Okay.
It's that great big, not great big, but it's that old bank building is what it is. Is I like Louisville. Louisville's a cool place.
Been to the campus quite a few times.
Oh,
Louisville's
yeah.
campus.
Yeah.
But I can't quite picture it. The one cool thing that I love about Louisville is they have those huge banners on the sides of buildings.
That's right.
Honoring folks who have been important in city history.
Yeah.
Those are really cool to see.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Louisville's a cool place. Obviously, a tragic situation. We just don't know how tragic just yet. So as we get more information, you're going to hear that in our information segments throughout the day, and I'm sure that there'll be more with Dan Bongino and Katie in Colombo at 2 o'clock, and then Chris and Tim this afternoon at 3:30, and, of course, Larry Connors after that at 6 p.m. right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. That's a hard segue into a couple sports notes from over the weekend. Battlehawks gave us a little bit of a scare this
Had to go into overtime.
First time in XFL history. It was an overtime game. I was over at my friend Matt's house. One of my baseball teams was having kind of a preseason get-together where we ate way too much food, and then the wives jumped in the hot tub, and we were just kind of hanging out as a team. And I went through Matt's house and saw on the TV that there was 40 seconds left, and we were down by 3. I'm going, wait a minute. We're supposed to whoop up on Vegas, but we were down by 3. And fortunately, we got they pushed it into overtime, kicked the field goal to get in overtime. I will say, though, that the Battlehawks got screwed because at one of the last plays of the second half, there should have been a pass interference called on Vegas, but there wasn't. I don't know why they let that one go, which would have given us like 1st and 1 foot line. But still, they pulled out the win. A.J. McCarron was not in that game, so it was a backup quarterback who got the win for the Battlehawks, which is a very good sign when you can win with a backup quarterback who's still very good. But when you can win with the backup quarterback, then you've got a good squad. 35,000+ people at the Dome at the game. So St. Louis still really turning out for the Battlehawks, which is really exciting to me. All right, it's 8:55 right now. Vic Porcelli is going to be here in less than 10 minutes. Cardinals, boy, rough start to the season. The offense, other than on Saturday, really dried up in Milwaukee. I'm not sure. Listen, Milwaukee is not a dry town. It is not a dry county, and that goes for runs as well, except for when the Cardinals were there.
And I wouldn't say that the Brewers have a stellar pitching staff either.
They've got a good one.
Yeah, but it's
not stellar.
Not
You're
top
right.
of the line.
Yeah, it's not. Now, Cardinals need to figure that out. Jack Flaherty didn't do terrible, but he didn't do great on Friday. He did okay. Adam Wainwright could be back this week, which I think would be a real shot in the arm to the pitching staff just because he kind of elevates everybody with his experience and his leadership. But I'm still calling it. Cardinals are winning the division. Remember, I said that last year around the All-Star break, and people thought I was nuts, and they ended up winning the division. I still think the Cardinals are winning the division.
No, they had too much firepower.
Yeah.
I think in this case, hopefully the firepower can overcome so-so pitching through much of the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Michaelis he had a rough start last year, and then he settled in, and he was awesome by the end of the year. So I'm hoping that's the case this year because he's just gotten shelled so far. But he did that last year as well. And I know people are adjusting to the new pitch clock and everything, but really what it comes down to is they've just got to gel. But I will say that defense, especially on the infield, man, that has got to be the envy of the rest of Major League Baseball.
Their defense is a huge plus.
Oh, yeah. Tommy Edmonds looking good at shortstop. Were we thinking we were going to say that last year? But he's looking great so far. And obviously, Goldschmidt and Arenado on the corners there for the team. So, yeah, we get that pitching settled in, and I think you've got the Cardinals just completely off to the races. I think it's going to happen. Absolutely going to happen there as well. So
they have a 3-game series with the Rockies beginning tonight?
Yeah, 7:40 our time locally. They actually don't get back till, I think it's next week. I think they've got kind of extended
Actually,
road
I think
trip.
Thursday they're back.
Is it this Thursday or was it next Wednesday? Is it this Thursday?
Pirates are here Thursday.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because they're running all the promotions and stuff. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. All right. Vic Borselli coming your way here in just about 5.5 minutes on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Coming up on 9 a.m. in Mid-America, welcome home.
The flow of information.
This week on News Talk STL.
Take a look at what's going on.
To get to the bottom. News, analysis, opinion.
The unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States.
Donald Trump pleaded not guilty.
Protesters and demonstrators are outside. Espionage claims against Mr. Gershkovich are absolutely ludicrous.
Raging war in Europe after the Russian invasion of menacing China.
101.9 and 94.1.
Kids shouldn't be afraid to go to school.
News Talk STL.
The Republican Party, City of St. Louis, stands in solidarity with Attorney General Andrew Bailey in his decision to lead the process to remove Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner from office. As we and Republican candidates for alderman have highlighted, she has pandered to perpetrators over providing justice for victims. Her incompetence has devastated our police force morale. Kim Gardner must go. The future of our city is at stake. Read our full statement at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Do you live in St.